Okay, good afternoon, members, and a very, very warm welcome to the full council of Somerset Council of July 2026. Warm welcome to everybody, particularly the aldermen in attendance here today and the members of the public. So I'm just reminding everybody that in line with legal requirements, this meeting is being held face-to-face, but members and the public can join online and participate at the meeting. Only the councillors present today are taking the decisions at the meeting. Officers in attendance are there to provide advice to the council only. The agenda and papers have been published on the council's website on Tuesday the 7th of July. The meeting will be live webcast and the council will be making an audio recording of the meeting, and this will be published on the council's website in due course. There are no planned fire drills today, and in the event of a fire alarm, please follow the fire exit signs and congregate in the car park. If anybody present might need assistance in exiting the building, then please let one of the Democratic Services team know. If members in the room wish to speak, please raise your hand and one of us on the top table will note your name. And when it comes to your turn, please use the microphone on the desk in front of you. For those members joining the meeting virtually, please use hand facility in MS Teams and I will invite you to speak. Please only speak when you're invited to address the council. And if you could, please say your name and role before speaking. Finally, there was an insert in the agenda detailing rules of debate, and this is to alert members for general debate that proposers have 5 minutes. All other members have 2 minutes, apart from the leader of the council and the leader of the opposition, who can have 10 minutes. Motions, proposer and seconder have 3 minutes each, and we've got 15 minutes on each motion. Thank you very much indeed, members. Okay, we'll go to agenda item 1, and that's apologies for absence. Thank you, Alan.
Chair, I've received no declarations of interest before this meeting, although we do have a hand in the room, Chair.
Oh, thank you, John.
Bandy Height, apologies for absence.
Thank you. We'll run through the apologies. Sorry, Mike, if we can do the apologies.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Jason Baker, Councillor Mike Best, Councillor Ben Ferguson, Councillor David Fothergill, Councillor Andrew Govia, Councillor Pauline Ham, Councillor Susanna Hart, Councillor Bente Height, Councillor Jenny Kenton, Councillor David Mansell, Councillor Matthew Martin, Councillor Kevin Messenger, Councillor Francis Nicholson, Councillor Kathy Pearce, Councillor Stephen Pugsley, Councillor Faye Purbrick, Councillor Wes Reid, Councillor Mike Rigby, Councillor Joe Randall Green, Councillor Brian Smedley, Councillor Andy Sully, Councillor Rosemary Woods and Councillor Ros Wyke.
Thank you, Mike. Martin.
Thank you. Could you add Councillor Shane Collins to that list, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Alistair.
Yeah, Councillor Peter Clayton, I thought he was coming, so I'm not quite sure what's happened there. So if you mark him down as apology, and if he turns up, he turns up.
Will do. Thank you, Alistair. Diego.
Councillor Lance Doddridge, please, Chair.
Thank you, Diego. Lee.
Councillor Pearce.
Thank you, Lee. Theo.
Councillor Smith-Roberts is on her way, but she apologises for being late.
Thank you, Theo. Any other apologies to be noted, please, members? Nope. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Agenda item 2 are the minutes of the previous meeting. Do I have members' agreement that we can pass the minutes as read? Sam?
The minutes suggest I wasn't at the last meeting, and I very much was, if that could just be corrected. Thanks.
Absolutely, you were, Sam. We'll get those amended, absolutely. Any other amendments to the minutes? No. Okay, so can I have a proposal that we can take those minutes as read, please? Thank you, Simon. Can we have a seconder? Jill Slocum, lovely. Those in favour, please? Great stuff. Thank you. The minutes are passed. Thank you, members. Excellent. I'm going to sign the form for those minutes. Thank you. Just a second. Brilliant. Okay, moving on. Agenda item number 3 are declarations of interest, which I think Mike, Alan's preempted.
Thank you, Chair. My sincere apologies, Council. I've not received any declarations of interest specific to this meeting other than those that have already been registered. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alan. Okay, agenda item 4, public question time. And I'm delighted to say that we have 2 public speakers here in the gallery today. And I'd like to invite the first one, Anthony Betty, if he's in the building, please, to address council. Welcome, Mr. Betty. It's lovely to see you. Really nice of you to join us. And you've got 3 minutes to address the council. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for allowing me to speak this afternoon to Council. Firstly, the community of Middlezoy wish for me to thank the Chairman for his attendance at the opening of the new seating deck at the Village Hall, highlighted in his report later on. Middlezoy Parish Council transferred its village playing field to Sedgemoor District Council in 1979 and has expressed a willingness to take back ownership, including meeting the associated legal costs. The Parish Council already manages the site through a lease and wishes to bring the playing field and Village Hall into common ownership to simplify management and reduce costs for the local community. Somerset Council has stated that it is not currently prioritising this transfer because the Parish Council already has a lease in place and therefore enjoys reasonable security of tenure. Can the exec member explain why a parish council that has demonstrated both the capacity and willingness to take on full ownership of a community asset should be required to wait indefinitely behind other requests? And will Somerset Council commit to publishing a clear timetable for considering and determining outstanding devolution and asset transfer requests, including Middlezoy Parish playing field? And given that Middlezoy Parish Council transferred this asset to the former District Council free of charge, is willing to pay the legal costs of the transfer, and is already responsible for managing the site, what tangible benefit is Somerset Council providing to local residents by retaining ownership of the playing field rather than progressing the transfer to the Parish Council? Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Thanks very much indeed for your question. It's lovely to see you here today. Theo, I think you're going to respond to that one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the question, Mr. Betty. Firstly, it's worth pointing out that it is very much our intention to continue with the programme of devolution of sites which parish councils, city, town and parish councils have requested, and we are making progress on that. We're grateful to all city, town and parish councils which have expressed an interest in taking on assets and services through local devolution, and to date we have received in excess of 80 expressions of interest. And whilst that is fantastic to have received so much interest in local devolution, it does mean that it has not been possible to progress all of those asset devolution arrangements yet. With regard to the playing field in Middlezoy, as you've referenced, the parish council has an existing lease of the playing field which lasts until 2043, and so currently do have reasonable security of tenure of the site. We have reviewed the terms of the lease and have deemed that the lease is relatively unrestrictive and enables the parish council to control the management and operation of the site. In prioritising outstanding requests from the many city, town and parish councils, we are giving priorities that do not already have the ability to manage the operation of assets through an existing lease. We remain committed to working through our outstanding pipeline of devolution work, and we will be in touch with Middlezoy parish councils once we are in a position to discuss the freehold transfer of the site. In terms of a pipeline for when we may be able to progress the outstanding asset devolution requests, we hope to be able to commence devolution discussions with those outstanding asset devolution requests in the next year, but whether a pipeline can be achieved will be dependent on the complexity of different devolution transfers as we begin work on them. To date, we've completed over 125 asset devolution transfers, and we have over 90 further asset transfers in progress currently. We are progressing asset devolution transfers as quickly as capacity allows, but we do not have infinite capacity, and therefore we have to prioritise sites. Given that Middlezoy Parish Council already has local control over how the playing field is maintained, used and operated through an existing lease, the community is already benefiting from the asset being locally managed. Whilst we appreciate the Parish Council's desire to obtain a freehold of the site, we cannot allow one parish council to leapfrog all the others which are waiting and which do not already have an existing level of local control in the assets in their area. Just to reiterate, it is our intention to progress with this devolution, but we have a pipeline we have to work through.
Thank you very much indeed, Theo. Thank you. Excuse me. Our second speaker today on question is Paul Partington. Is Paul in the room, please? He's not in. Yes, he is. Here he is. Thank you, Paul. Welcome to the meeting, sir. Lovely to see you here. And you've got 3 minutes to address the council. Thank you. Do you just want to turn your microphone on, or somebody's coming to help? Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Chair, and councillors for allowing me to address this meeting for public question time. To save time, I would accept that the statement I've prepared is taken as read by yourselves. Also, regarding the questions, I've taken, rather than read them out to save you time, I take it that you would take it as being read. I'd like to hear the answers to question 1 and 2, if my hearing will cope with this. And I'd like to see a written response to all my questions. Excuse me by walking away from here, but I need to put the headphone on. Hopefully I can then hear what's been said. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. Can we just turn the speaker's microphone off, please? I think that's still on down there. Thank you. Thank you very much for the question, Paul. And yes, all members will have had a copy of your letter. And I'm going to now hand over to Richard, who's going to respond once you've sat down and you're comfortable. Thank you, Richard.
You ready?
Just give me a minute. You okay? Thank you, John. Yeah, Mr. Partington sat down. Thank you, Richard.
Fantastic. Well, first of all, thank you very much, Paul, and thank you for all your volunteering contributions in the past and present, especially in relation to public rights of way. This is very much appreciated and something we continue to encourage with individuals, parish councils and other groups. It was great to meet you over in Hulse the other day. I appreciated speaking to you directly. With regard to your first 2 questions, first of all, Section 130 of the Highways Act contains a duty and a power in relation to the protection of public rights on highways. However, makes no reference to it being only those highway recorded on the definitive map. In certain circumstances, the council will have legal powers over footpaths and bridleways over private land not shown on the definitive map. But where we exercise those powers will depend on the facts of each case. The definitive map record is the main reference point for how resources are used in relation to services delivered for the public rights of way. And point B, the rights of way service acknowledge that there are some issues that have been inadvertently closed due to there being no practical day-to-day issue on the ground. However, an underlying path alignment issue may persist. Where such closed issues are brought to our attention, as in this instance, they will be reviewed and their status amended as necessary. Rights of way staff will be reminded of this with regard to the management of those reported issues. And you will receive answers to written answers to all your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, that's the conclusion of public questions here in the council. We'll move on to agenda item 5, which is chair's announcements. So all members will see a summary of the key visits that myself and the chair have undertook since we last met in May. But unfortunately, it's with great sadness that I have to announce the passing of three ex-district councillors since the last meeting who served our county well. The first one is Andrew Gilling, and Somerset Council is really saddened to learn of the death of former Sedgemoor District Councillor Andrew Gilling. Mr Gilling served the people of Sedgemoor with distinction for many years, representing Brent North Ward and later Knoll Ward on Sedgemoor District Council. During his time in public office, he was a committed advocate for his local communities and worked tirelessly on behalf of the residents across the district. Andrew Gilling was first elected to Sedgemoor District Council for Brent North Ward in 2003 and later represented Knoll Ward following boundary changes, continuing to secure the support of local residents over a number of election cycles. A letter of condolence has been sent and flags at all council buildings will be lowered to half-mast today as a mark of respect. The second one we have is Chris Williams. It is again with great sadness that we notify members of the death of Chris Williams, a former Sedgemoor District Councillor, former Town Councillor and respected local teacher. Chris devoted many years to serving his community through both local government and education. As a former member of Sedgemoor District Council and a Town Councillor, he worked diligently on behalf of local residents, bringing commitment, integrity and a strong sense of public service to everything he did. Alongside his civic duties, he was well known to generations of local people through his career as a teacher at King Alfred School. A letter of condolence has also been sent and flags at all council buildings will be lowered to half-mast today as a mark of respect. The final one is John Coles. It is with great sadness again that we have learnt the death of John Coles, a dedicated public servant whose commitment to Glastonbury and its residents spanned many years. John gave an enormous amount of time and energy to local government, serving both on Glastonbury Town Council and as a Mendip District Councillor for Glastonbury St John's Ward. He was elected to Mendip District Council in 2007, successfully retaining his seat in 2011 and 2015 before standing down in 2019. Throughout his years in public office, John was a strong advocate for Glastonbury. He brought experience, determination and a deep knowledge of local issues to the councils on which he served. John's service to the town was recognised through his appointment as an honorary alderman of Glastonbury, an honour bestowed upon former councillors who have given distinguished service to the community. Once again, a letter of condolence will be sent and all flags at council buildings will be lowered to half-mast today as a mark of respect. Can I please ask that all members that are able to stand and observe with me a minute's silence as a mark of respect to these past councillors. Thank you very much, members. Thank you very much, members. Thank you. And I know there's a number of members in the room that would like to pay some fitting tributes to these councillors. And the first one I'm going to invite is Bob Filmer.
Thank you very much, Chair. I first worked with Andrew nearly 25 years ago when he stood in a by-election for the Brent North Ward at Sedgemoor after the sudden deaths of Joyce Frost and Sam Desborough, his two predecessors. Andrew said at the time he was determined that he was going to last longer. Andrew had been asked by our then County Councillor Alan Ham, who convinced so many of us that it would just be a couple of meetings every 6 weeks or so. After being elected, Andrew threw himself into work at Sedgemoor and was on a number of committees. and we worked even closer together when our two wards were combined into the Knoll ward, as you mentioned. We sat on planning together, and Andrew always highlighted local views and constantly pushed planners to listen to the drainage board about flooding issues. We never managed to convince them to make them statutory consultees, but we did get them to talk to each other better. Andrew became portfolio holder for housing, where he championed affordable housing for local people across Sedgemoor. He also practiced what he preached, making land available behind his own home, and his former pig unit became the base for the South Western Housing Society headquarters. There are many people across Sedgemoor, the former Sedgemoor, in affordable homes today, thanks to the efforts of Andrew. And he did last longer than his contemporaries at Sedgemoor. He only relinquished his seat at Sedgemoor when the council itself was abolished in 2023. When Andrew took on a job, he tended to stick with it. Following on family tradition, he joined the drainage board back in the early 1970s, when I was still at primary school. He was an active board member, held several roles, and was acting chairman for many years, and was recently re-elected as chairman for a second time. He was also involved with the Somerset Rivers Authority after its creation in 2024 after the floods. Community and family were key to Andrew. He served on East Brent Parish Council for over 50 years. He only stepped down this year when his health was deteriorating. Andrew was a good friend and a committed local councillor. I will certainly miss my chats with him and his solid and wise advice. And my thoughts are with Rosemary, his widow, and their family. Their help and support over the years enabled Andrew to do all that he managed to do for the rest of us in the community.
Thank you, Bob. Jill Slocum.
Thank you. It's very difficult to follow that now, really. Bob's done a great job, but it's so hard to be able to speak about somebody in just these few minutes of the service they gave 19 years to the Sedgemoor District Council. I just wanted to say he was a very quiet, popular member, but a very strong man, and quickly became an executive member because of his views on housing. He worked tirelessly on housing, and he made us the success in Sedgemoor that we were. He was involved in many outside bodies. His commitment to Knoll ward was endless. It is a great loss. It's a great loss to us when he didn't stand again because of his knowledge, his friendly smile and his wit, because he had a very wry smile. And although sometimes you were never sure how he was going to vote, he did it his way, and he did it right to the end. So he is remembered with very, very deep, sincere sadness. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you very much. Liz.
Thank you, Chair. I recall John Coles actually through my work as much as a Mendip District Councillor. He knew everyone and everything in Glastonbury, which he always represented at Mendip. He also knew more about the Somerset and Dorset Steam Railway than anyone else I've ever met. And if you had 3 hours to spare, he'd tell you all about it. And as I have those recollections of going across the Peatmore on a steam railway, but don't tell anyone, Chair, that I'm that old, I was always very happy to hear from him, and he absolutely loved his hometown and represented it at every opportunity. If I may, Chair, just mention as well that between the May Full Council and this Full Council, we haven't mentioned former Mendip councillor Richard Clark. So as a Quaker, he would not welcome any kind of public eulogy, but we should note him as having been an incredibly important person in the life of Street and as in the life of Mendip District Council when he was, I believe, chair of planning when Glastonbury Festival came forward. So he had a very important role there. We remember both of them with great affection and thanks.
Thank you, Liz. Duly noted. Thank you very much indeed. Philip Ham, I understand you'd like to say a few words. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you. Everybody loved John Coles. He was a great guy. John Coles was very friendly and a likeable person. He served as a councillor for at least 40 years with Glastonbury and Mendip before becoming an alderman. John got elected to Mendip District Council the same day as I did in 2007. He served in the fire service and was a keen gardener. He was always a very reliable councillor, liked by his community, and people voted for him and not for politics. He was not keen on party politics, but was an excellent listener and only spoke when he felt strongly about something and if it was what he believed in. He was a councillor that always had respect for the officers and got on well with all of them. He enjoyed planning and licensing, and in 2015-2016, he was the Vice Chair of Mendip District Council. John was friendly, polite, humorous, and a gentleman. And if he chaired a meeting, he always opened it with a prayer. Our condolences go to his wife, children, in these difficult times. Rest in peace, John. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Philip. Thank you. John Cook Woodman.
Thank you, Chairman. I first met Chris Williams at King Alfred School. He was my English teacher. I'm not suggesting that was a highlight of his career. I'm sure it's quite the opposite. But he was a true Welshman, fiery, passionate, and theatrical. And a Chris Williams under full sail was quite something to behold. And he brought those attributes to the council, Sedgemoor District Council, and also to the Town Council as well. A passionate campaigner on buses, rights of way, and highways as well. He should be fondly remembered as a good teacher, a good councillor, a good bloke, and he was also a damn good laugh as well.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Any other members wishing to add any tributes? Yes, Hazel. Thank you, Hazel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to say that I'm so sorry to hear about Richard Clark. He was a district councillor, but he played an enormous part in the Levels and Moors partnership, and he was absolutely fundamental in pushing forward different ways in which the floodwater that affects the levels is managed. And I remember him for his passion and his joy and his absolute exuberance in beating the drum for finding more sustainable ways of dealing with floodwater. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazel. Bob, you'd like to come back? Come on in.
It was just on Chris Williams, as other members have mentioned. I mean, I worked with Chris on Sedgemoor for a number of years. He originally joined Sedgemoor even before me, back in the late 1990s, when he was elected as a Liberal Democrat member for Highbridge. He served as leader of the Liberal Democrat group for a while when it was not a very big group at that stage, but he was leader of the group. And then he left the Lib Dems and became an independent member for a number of years. He always worked very hard for his patch in Highbridge, campaigning hard for them. And I worked with him particularly because our seats adjoined each other. So we had quite a lot of cross-border issues, which was always helpful to work with Chris on. We also worked with each other on scrutiny and on drawing up the local plan for Sedgemoor a number of years ago. That was something he really put his back into. Chris actually lost his seat in 2015 when it was one of those occasions where the general election and the local election happened to fall on the same day. And I guess my colleagues at the back of the room will know, as an independent, that's a particularly difficult time to stand when party politics sometimes overrules people's local efforts. Chris and Sally moved down to Wellington after he'd lost his seat, and he still was very much involved in the community down there, even becoming the membership secretary for the Wellington Bowling Club for a number of years. So, again, the thoughts are with Sally at this time.
Thank you very much indeed, Bob. And Jill, you'd like to come back as well. Thank you.
Oh, well, one thing I do know is do not follow Bob Filmer, because he nicks everything you were going to say. But I just wanted to say, as the former deputy leader of Sedgemoor, I just remember Chris as a very strong, committed member. He didn't ever drive, and he always managed to get in to meetings, always on time, always there. And a lovely smile and a real true gentleman. So I just wanted to add that. But I can't add all the things I was going to say because Bob nicked them. Okay?
Thank you very much indeed, Jill. Okay, if that's the tributes, that's very fitting indeed, members. Thank you very much indeed for those. Okay, the final little bit on the chair's announcement is a very warm welcome. I'd like to have been delighted to give a very warm welcome to our new head of legal, who joins us, Jenny Caprio. She joins us from Buckinghamshire Council. So a very, very warm welcome to Jenny. I had first meeting with her yesterday at the pre-meet. So some really exciting times ahead for Jenny, I'm sure. And we'd also like to pass on our thanks to Kahindi for all his support to the council in the time in his office. So welcome, Jenny, and thank you, Kahindi, if you're listening. Okay, moving on. I'm just going to make an announcement to all members, if I may, before we start the rest of the business. So if you just indulge me for a second, members. So before we move to the main business of today's meeting, I've invited the leader of the council to make a statement regarding a significant matter that affects the council. Thank you. Bill.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, just colleagues, for taking a moment from me just to share some news with you. This morning at 10:15, I received an email from Minister Alison McGovern, and I believe statements being made in the House. We were told at 1 o'clock, so it would have been breaking news during this meeting. So I just wanted to share with you that the government has made a decision to issue a best value notice to Somerset Council. This is a serious step. It represents the highest level of government concern, short of formal intervention, and we accept that, and we will respond positively and constructively. This does not come as a surprise. We've been transparent about the financial and service pressures facing Somerset Council, and we've never sought to understate the scale of the challenge that we face. In anticipation of actions such as this and of the need for further scrutiny, we have already established an improvement advisory board to provide challenge, support and oversight of our improvement journey. And this will unlock welcome additional support from the government and through the local government association as well. Unfortunately, that support will not involve any money. This notice does not mean commissioners are being appointed, and it does not change the fact that Somerset Council remains completely responsible for making decisions locally and delivering services for the people of Somerset. We've been open about the scale of the challenge facing this council. Demand for services continues to rise, costs continue to increase, and the government's notice rightly reflects concern not only about the financial resilience, but also about the need to accelerate improvements in key services, including adult social care, children's services, and special educational needs and disabilities. We know there is much more work to do to strengthen our finances, governance, transformation, and service performance. While progress has been made, we have never been complacent and never will be. It is a moment to focus on what still needs to be done. We already have significant improvement activity underway, including independent external challenge around our financial position, strengthened governance arrangements, improvements to financial management, focused oversights of children's services and special educational needs and disabilities, and a major transformation programme designed to put the Council on a more sustainable footing for the future. We welcome the opportunity to demonstrate that progress to governments and to our residents. We will continue to work openly with ministers, officials, our partners and our independent advisors, and we will be transparent about the improvements we are making and the challenges that remain. I have said for some time that the way local government is funded is broken. Councils are being asked to meet growing demand for essential services through a funding system that is increasingly unable to keep pace with the pressures communities face. This does not diminish our responsibility to improve, and we accept that responsibility. But it is important that today's announcement is understood in the context of the wider challenge affecting local government across the country. Above all else, our focus remains on the people we serve, protecting essential services, supporting our most vulnerable residents, delivering value for money, and building a stronger, more sustainable council to create a fairer, better future for Somerset. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Bill, for that statement. Members will note the information provided from that statement, please, and a more detailed report will be brought forward through the appropriate government's arrangements. We will now move forward to the next items of business, and I'm going to move forward to agenda item 6, please, and it's the annual Treasury Management Year-End Report, and I'm going to ask Liz Lation to introduce it. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Chair. I'm presenting this year-end Treasury Management Report, which has been considered by Audit Committee in May and by the Executive earlier this month. The CIPFA Code of Practice for Treasury Management requires full council to receive, as a minimum, an annual strategy and plan in advance of each financial year, a mid-year review, and an annual report following the close of year. This is the full year review for the 2025-26 financial year based on the strategy agreed in March 2025 for the previous financial year. So members will see that in recommendation 2, the report notes the reduction in borrowing costs during 25-26, and that for the general fund, the 6.97% proportion of borrowing costs to the net revenue budget compares well with the CIPFA recommended maximum of 10%. The Council's debt forecast has significantly reduced as we have had more receipts from asset sales. And we further reduced the borrowing requirement in our capital programme through our work to set the 26-27 budget. The Council actually holds less debt today than it did on the 1st of April 2023 vesting day. Members will know that the Housing Revenue Account borrowing is included in our Treasury Management reports, although the affordability of the HRA borrowing is entirely for the HRA. So that HRA borrowing is the main reason for the forecast increase in future years' borrowing as we strive to provide more much-needed social housing across Somerset. Chair, I would like to take this opportunity, please, to thank our Treasury Management team for their exceptional work on behalf of this Council and the people of Somerset. Their diligence, their experience and knowledge have all been acknowledged by local authority professionals and by CIPFA and must be appreciated by all members. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Liz. Dawn, I understand you're happy to second.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm really pleased to second this report. The outturn demonstrates that the Council's Treasury Management has been carried out responsibly and in full accordance with the approved Treasury Management strategy and the CIPFA code. So yes, happy to second.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, I'm going to invite any questions from members then, please. Are there any on the floor? Yes, Diogo. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just noting really as well on page 67, table 4, when I'm looking at the proportion of net revenue stream, the percentage, I think it's one of the items that we're noting as well in the report. It's obviously very good to see that. What I did note as well, and someone please feel free to explain if it needs further explanation, is the reduction in that proportion of net revenue stream percentage by 2030-31 to 6.66%, which is a positive thing, but we also know so much can happen in that time. But also just noting that that's probably largely driven by the increase in the net revenue stream, which is about 180 more in 2030-31 than it is today. And I suspect that percentage, although I've not done my maths entirely, I suppose that's largely driven by that. So just something around that would be great. And also noting the £1 billion debt on the authority as well, and the external borrowing increase in the figures presented. If anyone's able to just explain what's driving that, that would be most useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Diego. I'm just looking around before I come in to get back to Liz. Any other members' questions? No? Okay, Liz, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I know from my time when I was working that those who are looking across different size councils, different size theatres or even cinemas use a percentage because it's the only way you can compare like with like. You can't compare. We still do have a two-tier system in parts of this country. You can't compare a district council with a turnover of 16, 17 million with a large unitary with the turnover. So I completely take your point about the fact that the net revenue budget increases, but it is about affordability, and a percentage is the best way. And it's not just my view, it's the view of professionals to make that comparison. So the reducing percentage, and we should be clear, Chair, that we have the government to thank for the high needs grant, which will be 90% of our DSG deficit, or at least the high needs part of it, as long as our SEND reform plan is accepted. Without that, our treasury management for the future could be looking quite different. So that is a very significant factor in this current financial year. The extra borrowing that we will have for the housing revenue account, Chair, I only wish we could do more. I'm not normally somebody who wishes us to borrow. I have made it really clear in my meetings with SIPFA regarding our exceptional financial support that I want to see our capital financing requirement reduce as much as possible. However, if the government wish councils to build more social housing, government need to do something about the level of borrowing that HRAs hold, particularly since 2012. So like John Coles was on the steam railway, if you want 3 hours on that, anytime you like. I am really passionate about this country needing to do a house building programme of quality homes that cost less to run and use less energy, equal to that after World War II. We are nowhere near that at present. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Liz. So I can confirm that the it's been proposed and seconded. So I'm going to ask if we can go to the vote now, please. So all those members in favour, please. Thank you very
Chair,
much.
may I ask, do we need the recommendations read out?
Would you like me to do that? They're presented. I'm happy to do that. Yes, certainly. There's three here. There's three recommendations. So we're asked to note the year-end position that all activity during the year was compliant with the approved Treasury Management Strategy and within the prudential indicators set in that strategy. The second one was to note the reduction in borrowing costs and for the general fund, the 6.97% proportion of net revenue stream, which compares well with the SIPFA recommended maximum of 10%. And finally, that we approve the report as being compliant with the SIPFA Code of Practice for Treasury Management. So those are the recommendations. Thank you, Liz. Yes, just for governance, can we have that vote again? Those members in favour, please. Thank you very much indeed. Those against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much indeed, members. Excellent. Okay, great stuff. We're going to go to agenda item number 7 then, please, which is a review of the Constitution, 2026 to 27. This is on pages 89 to 98 of your report. I'm going to hand over to Ross, Chair of the Constitution and Governance Committee, to introduce the report. Good afternoon, Ross, and welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologise for joining you from the lectern today. Due to some medication I'm on at the moment, I'm having to be very careful about crowded rooms. In closed spaces, but we're here anyway. I was very interested in some of the reports, comments moving comments made to the past members, and there was one comment which resonated with me when they said about somebody had persuaded somebody to stand for council because they told him, "Don't worry, it's only a time commitment of 2 hours per month." And I'm looking at Simon Coles because some days, dark days, he constantly reminds me of it. I know he's going to say it as well, but I said that to him in 2005. And he's still here and he's still enjoying every minute of it. I know. So, moving forward to the Constitution of Governance report, the Constitution has been set up since vesting day, and it's a movable feast, the Constitution. Constitution is set in stone, but also it evolves. What the Constitution looks like now may look dramatically different in 5 or 10 years' time, and this report encompasses some of the reports which we'll be looking at in the next year, including Telecouncillor and the long-awaited planning terms of reference review, and also looks forward to some potential reviews of the Constitution which will take place in 27-28. I'm proposing the recommendation as printed, and I look to our Vice Chairman of the Constitution and Governance Committee, Councillor Tim Curley, to formally second.
Thank you, Ross. Tim, are you happy to speak now? Can somebody lend Tim a
Speak up,
microphone?
Tim.
Thank you. Oh, Ross, yes, you've still got yours on. That's right, thank you.
Yeah, happy to propose that and reserve my right to speak. Thank you, Chair.
Second it, Tim.
Second
yeah.
it, apologies.
Okay, no, reserve your right to speak, that's fine. Okay, thank you, Tim. Any members' questions on this item, please? I see no hands. Excellent. So we're back to you then, Tim. You've reserved your right to speak. On you go.
Yeah, more than happy to second this. It's a good piece of work over the year. I think that Ross has quite well described it as a movable feast. So yeah, very happy with the work we've done this year. Happy to second. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tim. Ross, anything more you'd like to add?
No, I think that encompasses everything that I wish to say in support. I commend the report to everybody.
Thank you, Ross. Okay, members, no other hands are up. Can I have a vote then? The recommendations are in front of us. They're in the pack. I won't read them out. But can we have hands, those in favour, please? Thank you very much indeed. Those members against, please. Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you very much indeed, members. Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item 8, and this is the report for from the Senior Management Appointments and Employment Committee. And this is pages 99 to 116 of your reports. And I'm going to hand over again to Liz to introduce this report. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Chair. Members, today I'm presenting the recommendations from the Senior Management Appointments and Employment Committee for the appointment of a permanent Chief Finance Officer and statutory Section 151 officer. This is, as we know, one of the most significant appointments the Council can make. The Section 151 officer has a critical statutory responsibility for the proper administration of the Council's financial affairs. The role provides oversight of financial governance, advises members and officers on financial matters, ensures the robustness of budgets and reserves, and has specific legal duties to report concerns regarding unlawful expenditure or financial sustainability. The post holder is also a key member of the executive leadership team, working directly with them and councillors to support the Council's long-term sustainability. Members should note that maintaining interim arrangements indefinitely presents risks to organisational stability. Somerset Council, as we've heard from the leader, continues to face significant financial challenges, and securing permanent leadership in this statutory role is considered essential to providing continuity, stability, and strategic financial direction for the authority. Members will recall that the Council has been seeking to make a substantive appointment to this role for some time. Following the recruitment campaign launched back in December 2025, a robust selection process was undertaken, including technical assessments and formal interviews in February. While an initial appointment was made, that candidate subsequently withdrew for personal reasons. The second candidate was assessed by the committee at that time as being appointable and met the required standard for the role. Due to a change in circumstances, the second candidate was further assessed at a meeting on the 23rd of June. Given that the candidate was previously assessed through a full and rigorous recruitment process and determined to be appointable by this committee, that is the Senior Management Appointments and Employment Committee, officers advised that there was no requirement to repeat the entire recruitment process. The committee meeting on the 23rd of June agreed unanimously to recommend that full council consider the appointment of the second candidate. Following the committee's meeting, the monitoring officer consulted all members of the executive and no objections were raised to the proposed appointment. Chair, I would like to thank those members on the committee with me, Councillors Dawn Denton and Councillor Mike Hewitson, who were there as opposition spokesperson and chair of the audit committee. And in conclusion, as chair of that committee, I propose that full council approves the appointment of Elizabeth Watkin, generally known as Lizzie Watkin, to the role of Chief Finance Officer, also known as the Section 151 Officer. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Liz. And Dawn, I understand you're happy to second this one. Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. I'm thrilled that we have somebody in the role for the stability of the council at this very difficult time. So thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. Any members' questions on this one, please? Yes, Diego, thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Just before I go on to say what I wanted to say, Councillor Lation mentioned Bill's comments earlier about facing significant financial challenges. I think if we're a bit more frank about it, we're in a blooming darn mess. That's where we are. And we haven't acted in a way that's been expected of us. I think that's more a transparent and fair way of putting the position that we're in across. I want to take this opportunity, obviously, to thank Clive again, because I think we did that at the last meeting, but to thank Clive for all his hard work and support he's given to us as an opposition group during the time he's been present. And I do also welcome the appointment of Lizzie as our Chief Finance Officer, and I do wish her every success in the role. It's an important position, and we've been saying for quite some time that we need stable financial leadership, so I'm pleased that she has been appointed as a permanent placement, and I just hope she's here for a little longer than the last permanent appointment. It is just worth council noting, however, that this will be the 6th person to be appointed as Chief Finance Officer in just over 4 years, and the report sets out that the cost of the Finance Officer for this one financial year is about £250,000. It's worth just noting that. And residents, I think, will rightly be asking, what value for money are we getting? And I think that's a fair question for residents to ask, despite the £250,000 price tag, because residents will know that we've had that 1-star financial rating from SIPFA. They've told us our financial management is weak, and now obviously with the best value notice too. So I sincerely hope the Chief Finance Officer succeeds. She has our full support as an opposition group, and what will be a very difficult job ahead of her, and even more difficult now with the best value notice. And so we do look forward to working with her. Thank you.
Thank you, Diego. Mike Hewitson.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to say thank you to Liz and to Dawn and as other members of the panel. We did have an open and honest conversation, and I think we were all comfortable in where we got to. I would also like to say thank you to Clive from the perspective of the Audit Committee. Clive has been a staunch and stalwart champion for stronger controls and better governance in the organisation. While it may not feel like it to all in the room, we are making progress on that front. So I would like to give both my personal and the thanks of the committee to Clive for all of his hard work and dedication to Somerset while he's been with us.
Thank you, Mike. Mandy.
Thank you. I'd just like to echo to say I'm very supportive. I think for the finance team to have some stability is absolutely crucial, because every 151 officer will have slightly different ideas and views on how their team operates, and I think some stability will be very welcome. I'd also like to welcome Lizzie, who has worked at Somerset Council for many years, and I think that will hopefully get her off to a really quick bedding in and a start. She sure has some real early challenges facing, especially with today's news, but I think on the upside she will be very versed with Somerset Council's finance system and many of the staff there. And I think that will help her to settle in and get to grips with it really quickly. So just a welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. No other hands up in the room, so I'm back to you, Liz, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wishing to propose this now, and if the seconder does not wish to speak again, then I'm hoping, Chair, that you'll take us to the vote.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, members, the recommendations are in front of you on the pack. So I just ask for a vote. We'll move to the vote. And can I have a show of hands for those in favour, please? Thank you very much indeed. Anybody against? Any abstentions? No, lovely. That's carried. Thank you very much indeed, members. That's excellent. So we're moving on to agenda item 9 now. I'm going to ask Duncan, our Chief Executive, to introduce a report. Thank you, Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. I've got nothing to add to the report which has been circulated to members already.
Thank you very much indeed, Duncan. Have we any members' questions in the room? No? Okay, we're just asked to note that then, Council. We haven't got a vote on that. Okay, so thank you, Duncan. Okay, I'm gonna risk it for a biscuit here, and I'm gonna push on because we're well ahead of time. So we're gonna go on to the motions now, and we're gonna go on to item number 10. Motion A, maximising pupil premium and protecting vulnerable children through free school meal auto enrolment. So that's the first motion brought to Council today, and I'm going to ask the proposer of that motion, Lee, to introduce it. Thank you. Lee Redman.
Thank you, Chair. Before you start the timer, just a quick clarification. Following the publication of the papers, there was some confusion which I wanted to seek to clarify before, and I sent all members notification of that clarification, and I carried out an apology. I added an apology for the Leader of Council for any misunderstanding that may have participated from that. So I just wanted to draw everyone's attention to that, Chair, before I speak to my motion. You can start the timer now.
Thank you,
Chair, I'm pleased to move the motion. At its heart, this motion is about something very simple: ensuring that children receive support they are already entitled to receive. Across the county, we know that children who qualify for free school meals but who are not registered, we know there are children who qualify for free school meals but who are not registered. Children miss out not because they are ineligible, but because the current system relies upon families navigating forms, paperwork and administrative processes. Eligible children can miss out because of complexity, lack of awareness, or stigma that some families still feel when asking for help. The result is that children can miss out on a nutritious meal during the school day, while schools miss out on funding designed to support disadvantaged pupils. This motion seeks to address that. Importantly, the motion does not create a new entitlement. It does not widen eligibility criteria. It does not create a new benefit. It simply asks Somerset Council to ensure that children who are already entitled to support actually receive it. The proposal is practical and proportionate. It asks the Council to explore an opt-out registration system using information already available through existing council tax support and housing benefit processes. Eligible families would be automatically registered and then given a clear and straightforward opportunity to opt out if they chose to do so. The motion is also explicit that any system must fully comply with GDPR and data protection requirements. We must protect people's information and ensure that any approach is both lawful and dignified. Chair, I believe this is fundamentally about removing barriers. It also aligns directly with our ambitions to give every child the best start in life. As a council, we have consistently said that we want children and young people to thrive, to achieve their potential, and to succeed regardless of background or circumstances. If we are serious about this ambition, then we must all be serious about removing the barriers. A child who receives a meal they are entitled to is more likely to be ready to learn. A family receives support without unnecessary bureaucracy. A school receives the funding associated with that child and can invest in it improving outcomes. Everyone benefits. I am particularly pleased that the motion includes the requirement to report progress back to Children and Families Scrutiny Committee. Some may ask, why should we change the current system? I would turn that question around. The real question is not why we should help children access support they're already entitled to. The real question is why we would knowingly leave barriers in place. Chair, this is a practical, proportionate and compassionate proposal. It reduces bureaucracy, it reduces stigma, and it helps the child. Chair, I move.
Thank you, Lee. Spot on time. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to pass over to the seconder. I understand Heather's going to second it. Thank you, Heather. Would you like to speak now or reserve your right?
I'd be more than happy to second this motion, but I'd like to reserve my right to speak after there's been any debate at all. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Heather. So members are reminded there's a 15-minute time limit on the motion. So that's 7 speakers. I've got a couple of names already, and I'm going to move first of all to Lucy Trimnell. Sorry, Lucy.
So thank you. So very quickly, I must say to Lee, I was locked out of my emails on here, and so I haven't seen your email. So many apologies if something I mention here is something you've corrected. It's not intentional at all. So I'm very supportive of this in principle. I worked in education for many years, and most of my work was with children in receipt of pupil premium. So I know how important a good meal is to these children, and it's a lifeline for many children. No doubts about that. For this reason, I want to vote in favour of this motion, but I do have a couple of questions I need to ask first. I was the joint chair of the Council Tax Reduction Scheme Task and Finish Group. Our aim was to make changes for vulnerable groups of residents, but we had to find ways to cover the costs of these changes that we were making. The ongoing reminder throughout the whole scheme was that a new scheme had to be at least cost neutral. Having been through this process with a fine-toothed comb, I feel it would be remiss of me to vote for this motion without reassurance because I like it. I have to make sure that it's fiscally okay. So can you give assurance that voting in favour of this motion will not cause further financial strain to the council and that there is a fund of money to support it? And then I have said, and I wonder whether this is what Lee was addressing earlier, Councillor Redmond, that he said, I tried from January to get support from the lead member and leader of the council, but there's been no meaningful movement, and yet you're seconding it. And so I just wanted to check what the reason was for that, because I feel if it had gone through the appropriate channels, then it could have been subject to a greater debate than 15 minutes here in this motion, more people able to speak, and with the finances laid in front of us, which I think would have made it easier to make this decision. I'm straying for voting for it because of having seen the impact. Is that 30 seconds left? Or time?
No, that's your 2
done?
minutes, Lucy. But I'll exercise a bit of discretion if you're going to wrap it up.
Okay, so all I want to hear is that the money is already available to cover the cost of this, money that's just not drawn down in full currently, or that it will have no impact on the council's fragile finances, or that it won't come at the cost of other valued services. So to sum up, I'm supportive of this, but just seek financial reassurance that we're not committing this council to a level of unmanageable financial burden. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. I'm going to take some other speakers first, and then we'll revert to the proposer and seconder. Bill, your hand was next.
I believe, if I may, ask if Councillor Heather Shearer could address the point, and I'll come back in later because it's her.
I'm going to let Heather come in at the end when she's reserved her right to speak. So I'll ask her to come in. So you're next, Bill.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. First of all, Lee, thank you very much for clarifying the notes that were attached to your motion that I think you hadn't intended for wider circulation or publication. As you'll be aware, this is a subject that we've been working on for some time. I've also been working on it on a different stage as the County Council Network's Education and SEND spokesperson. We have been trying to encourage councils to do this all over the country. Our colleagues in Cornwall did a really good job of rolling it out a couple of years ago, And we were incredibly surprised that Devon County Council had also managed to do that, given that they're under a two-tier system. They had to get all the district councils to cooperate with that data sharing process. And I thought that was just an absolute nightmare, and a tribute to the Devon County Council team that managed to get that over the step. In total, amongst the CCN members, we've managed to unlock 4,000 additional eligible pupils, and that unlocks £9 million of new funding in the schools where they are. It's a really good scheme to be able to bring it forwards. So why haven't we yet managed to do it in Somerset yet? And you're absolutely right. First of all, there is the wider resource question that we need to identify. That will cost this council some money in order to unlock that funding for schools through the pupil premium. That is by its nature, we need to get that business case forwards and make sure that we can fund it. The more complicated thing as we're going through the unitary process is because all our revenue and benefits teams were migrating from 4 or 5 different systems onto one. It was an additional burden on that team to pursue that if we had pushed it at that time, it would have been an extra pressure on that service, which is already under some pressure in delivering that migration at the moment. So that it hasn't happened as quickly as we would want. That doesn't mean we aren't fully in favour of the principle of this, and like you said, so absolutely subject to the funding. We were absolutely behind the spirit of this. Once we've got the migration and the integration of the revenue and benefit system, we will be able to deliver and find the funding. We'll be able to deliver this to benefit hundreds of children in our schools across Somerset. The difficulty is making sure we get it right. We want to proceed at pace. We don't want to proceed with haste and get anything wrong in terms of GDPR or in terms of the administration of this process. I hope that reassures the member, and I'm sure Heather will add to it in due course.
Thank you, Bill. Excellent. Diego, you're next.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, so fully agree with the comments and questions that Councillor Trimnall's put forward, and I'm sure that will be given some clarification. It sounds like, though, if I may say so, Councillor Redmond may have accidentally thrown Councillor Evans under the bus a little bit, and he's issued his apology, which is welcome, and hopefully this motion can go forward. I fully welcome it. And what I do want to just check as well in response is that the auto enrolment is possible within what the council is doing, and I welcome the option in the recommendations to opt out to, because for some families it may be that they might need it, but they may not wish to apply it because of the perceptions from those in the outside world. I was one of those kids in school who had free school meals, and so I got the opportunity given to everyone that is entitled to it. But I do appreciate that for some families it's a barrier not knowing how to apply, not being able to work out how to apply, or even that they're entitled to it. So I think it's a positive step forward if the authority is able to do it within the constraints that it has, and also that all the finance comments that Lucy gave to. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Diego. Members, I've got 4 more hands up, and I'll probably just about squeeze all 4 in if we're quick. I'm going to go next to Sam Fripp. Sam.
Thank you very much. Yes, I was a child of a single parent family. I'm one of 5 siblings, and my mum was in the difficult position of trying to choose whether to feed herself or to feed her children in the early 1990s. So I am incredibly glad that the system of free school meals is now in place to pick up some of those people. It was introduced when I was at primary school, in fact. One of the issues is that, of course, I missed out on free school meals because there was a stigma associated with free school meals and who would apply for them and who wouldn't. So I absolutely welcome that we can auto-enroll people. They don't have to face that decision as to whether they accept the form at the school gate and go and fill it in or anything else. And it should mean that children are able to go to school, learn and feel full and satisfied and well. I also just want to recognise that one of the measurements that is used as to whether people are eligible is pupil premium, which was a brilliant policy put forward by the Liberal Democrats when we were in government between 2010 and 2015. So I'm absolutely happy to support this motion. If it means that more kids across Somerset are fed and ready to learn, then that's a good thing by me.
Thank you, Sam. John Hunt.
Thank you, Chair, and well done, Lee, for putting this forward. It's obviously, well, from my perspective anyway, and I certainly listening to everybody else, it appears to be everybody else's thoughts that this is a no-brainer. The only question I have really is who will be notified? Will it be the school first, or will it be the parent or carer, guardian, whatever? First of all, it is important. We talked about the perception, which the last speaker mentioned, on how that looks for the parents if all know your child is entitled to free school meals. This, I think, or certainly from reading it, it seems that this takes away that, which is rather nice, I think. But it is important we get that part of it right. And in relation to today's unpleasant news about the Best Value notice, is this something the government can poke their noses into, if you like, and say, look, sorry, you can't have the money, or you can't be spending extra money on something like this, albeit a very important thing to spend the money on. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. Jill Slocum.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. I just want to say I think it's a great shame that Councillor Redmond has had to really fight and a long time to get this through, but I take the point of the leader, why the reasons, but it still feels very sad. I'm also 1958, when I also had school meals, big stigma, and that's probably why before this I had them. I was so short. I should have had them earlier. And what I'm thinking is, on a serious level, that it is an important factor. It really is an important factor that this auto-enrolment is there for children. I commend and I thank Councillor Redmond for doing this. He's a Labour member who cares deeply, along with Councillor Shearer, about young people, children, and they're getting the best they can out of life. And I just really am so pleased. And I would like to think that we can get this in for the September intake. But then you know what I'm like. I like everything yesterday. But I would definitely move to that. So thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chair. We do know what you're like. Right, Peter Sieb.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to support the motion. I think it's a good idea to auto-enroll people. There's an awful lot of good gets done, particularly with that pupil premium within young people's lives. It's in the environment of schools. Many of them are putting that pupil premium to use, enabling activities for children that could not otherwise participate. Indeed, my wife sat on Dartmoor today with a large number of children from Chard who would not be able to take part in the activity were it not for the pupil premium. This is what makes rounded people. This is great investment in the future of Somerset.
Thank you, Peter. And Jill, I wasn't being disrespectful. We all love you, really. Okay, we're moving back to the seconder now. So we're going back to Heather. And just to remind Heather, she's got 3 minutes to sum up. Thank you. I'll sign up.
I'll join the club. I'll join that club. I'll try in 3 minutes to give as many assurances as I possibly can. And I'm a couple of things. I'll try not to go over three minutes. But first of all, I would just like to say I'm always impressed by the amount of care and consideration I find in this room for children in this county. And I'm really pleased this is a cross-party acceptance that this is the right thing to do. Indebted, of course, to Lee for bringing it up. But I just also want to go through a few bits of assurance from the services point of view, I guess. So first of all, we do have cross-directorate support at the highest level and at medium level to work on this. For the last year, there has been work going on behind the scenes. We've kind of all got a bit drilled that we don't bring things forward until we're absolutely sure about the financial and resource implications. So please rest assured there will be a business plan style of approach to this to make sure that we can actually afford it. I think we all know the benefit of it. I think there's a real return on that investment that everyone can see, both moral and financial, but we do have to go through the right processes to see what it's going to take, and I think that's the right thing. So we have been working for the last year. We have also been talking to our colleagues regionally, my opposite numbers in other local authorities in the Southwest, to get all the best learning. Some of you have mentioned opting out. I think that's really important, and I got that message loud and clear from colleagues months ago, that you have to, you can auto-enroll, but you have to have the opportunity for people to opt out. Also words of dignity, respect, all the kind of things, the consideration for families. We have to ensure that whatever process we bring in place allows that for families. This is not something being done to people. You also mentioned schools, and of course any process that we go through has to work with our schools. We already do a great deal of work around supporting schools with assessing eligibilities and so on, anyway, around free school meals. So we just have to be very careful that we work with our partners, and it will be a joint enterprise in that way. Another thing just to say quickly, looking at the time, I'll be as quick as I can. Auto-enrollment makes it sound like it's something that's going to happen really quickly. It's not a fully automated process, but rather a measure to try to ensure that those eligible children are able to access the free school meals they need. So we do have to make sure the processes behind the scenes work, but there will be a degree of manual checking involved anyway. It's not a kind of a switch and suddenly they all get it. And also the government wants yearly checking to make sure it's correct. So it is complex. We probably could not have brought it forward before now because of the main thing is the data sets we need to align. And I think mention was made of the fact we've had four different revenues and benefits systems up until about yesterday. I don't think it's in place yet, but pulling that together would make the whole transition easier to making this an opt-out process rather than having to apply. So there's something about the timing that we couldn't do it much before now. But we're certainly happy to get it done quickly. And I think the other thing I would say is I've mentioned the business plans, but this is something which is complex. If you want more information about it, there is quite a handy webinar on the County Councils Network, which explains it. It was chaired by our leader. And we can also take any learning from that as well and make it into a briefing for people. So we just want to make it happen, but we have to do it in the right way with a business plan supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, Lee, I'm going to pass back to you. As you can hear, there's been some very favourable comments amongst the floor, so I'll hand over to you to summarise. You've got 3 minutes. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, could I ask just that you pause the timer quickly? Just need a little explanation. I wanted to apologise to members for my tongue and the fact that it was getting twisted a little bit during my speech. I think that we need to maybe consider something. I'm dyslexic, and having a timer adds additional pressure to me. So I think some of my mind was getting a little bit caught up in words as we were going through. So I apologise for my speech and my tongue. But we may want to consider at some point other issues and disabilities where members have things that may not be visible. Additional pressure like that, and I apologise to members for my tongue slip.
Fully understand, Lee, and absolutely, I'll exercise some discretion. You carry on.
You can start the clock. I wasn't asking for more time. Just consideration. So I welcome the lead member supporting my motion. I welcome the comments from members. I hope, Lucy, the clarification around funding was made. I would reiterate my apology to the Leader of Council. For those members that have put motions previously would have noticed there's a new form that was the first time it was being used this time. And my words that I was using to support the motion were then transponded to full publication, which I do apologise for. A couple of quick points, just for clarity. All we're doing with this motion is asking the executive, it's their business to do this, to put this in place. It's not a full council decision. Forgive me again, I used the full council button because it helps, as Councillor Slocum would like to get things moving a little bit quicker. So hopefully that's why we were doing that. Just for clarity, I believe actually the national picture is going to be changing somewhat because it was mentioned in the white paper as a direction of travel, one of the suggested points there. So that's going to be coming forward in itself. I hope that we're able to move this forward because at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, even if this motion and this effort helps one more child in this county achieve, it has been successful. Chair, thank you. I rest.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you. Lucy, what?
I was named, which is fine, not a complaint, but I would like to come back. I think the fact that you're saying that there will be a business plan in place for this is reassurance enough for me to vote it through at this stage, but I presume it's a commitment at this stage to do it regardless of the business plan.
At this stage, yeah.
So the comment's been made. Councillor Trimmel's already spoken.
Yeah, we need to move on, Lucy. Thank you. Yeah. Right, so members, we've had the 15 minutes, we've had the time. Thank you very much indeed. The recommendations are in front of you. I'm going to move to the vote. Those in favour of this motion, please raise your hands. Thank you very much indeed. Those against? Thank you. Any abstentions? No, great. Thank you. Motion carried. Thank you, members. We're going to move on as we're still well ahead of time for a due break. So I'm going to move on to the second motion. Motion B, financial management and accountability following the SIP for financial management review. Proposer and seconder here is Dawn and Diego. So I'm going to hand straight over to Dawn, who's proposing this. Over to you, Dawn.
Thank you very much. Before I start, I just want to remind us all why we're all here. We belong to different political groups and hold different views on how Somerset Council should be run, but every one of us was elected for one reason, and that's to serve the residents of Somerset. They expect us to spend their money wisely and protect and deliver services that they rely on. And thirdly, to leave the council in a stronger position than we found it, which today is 42 weeks and 1 day away. I was a PE teacher, and one of the things sport teaches us is that improvement doesn't happen by setting a goal and hoping for the very best. When I was coaching a swimmer, for example, I wouldn't time them at the beginning of the season and then just wait for the end to see how they've done. I checked their progress regularly. I needed to see what was improving, what wasn't, if they were on pace, and whether their training needed some kind of adjustment. And those regular check-ins weren't about criticism. They were about giving the athlete the best possible chance of succeeding. And I believe the same principle applies here. This independent sit for review gives us a clear baseline. It recognises genuine strengths within the council, including the mammoth task of completing the historic accounts, strong technical expertise in some of the parts of the finance team, and a clear recognition that change is needed, which is very important. But it also concludes that our overall financial management is currently weak, awarding Somerset 1 out of 5 stars. But this isn't a political opinion, it's an independent assessment. And the motion doesn't seek to apportion blame on any finance team, it doesn't ask for additional resources, and it doesn't interfere with the executive's role in delivering improvements. It simply asks that members receive periodic progress reports through the Audit Committee with 6 monthly updates to full council so that we can see where those improvements and recommendations by CITFA are being delivered and whether the pace of change is sufficient and whether further action is needed. If we are serious about becoming a financially stable council, we should be as serious about measuring our progress along the way. Transparency builds trust, and accountability generally leads to improvement, but both ultimately protect the services our residents rely on. And I hope members across the chamber will support this constructive and practical motion, because whatever our political differences, we all share the same goal, and that's delivering the very best outcomes for the residents of Somerset. So I commend the motion to the council. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Dawn. Diego, you're seconding. Would you like to speak now or reserve your right?
I will speak now, Chairman.
Thank you. Carry on.
So I think that this motion actually has even more meaning, having heard the news of the best value notice that we've received today as well. And I do generally hope, after what we've said in the debate, that this will be accepted by all today. Nobody on this side takes any satisfaction in Somerset Council receiving a 1-star rating for its financial management. Every one of us wants this council to succeed, because when the council fails, it's our residents who pay the price. We want to get Somerset working again, and that starts with getting this council's financial management working properly. The motion before you is based on evidence. It comes from the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy, which we all know is the country's leading authority on public sector financial management. It's commissioned by Somerset Council itself to undertake that independent review. And the independent review reached a very clear conclusion, that Somerset Council's financial management is weak. It awarded this authority 1 star out of a possible 5. Now, the report does recognise areas of strength. It acknowledges the hard work of officers in completing historic accounts, recognises strong technical capability within parts of the finance team, and notes that there is an organisational recognition that change is needed. But despite those positives, the overall judgment remains 1 star. And when you read the report, it's easy to understand why. It highlights weaknesses in leadership capacity. It says budget ownership and accountability are inconsistent. It identifies weaknesses in financial forecasting. It highlights an over-reliance on manual processes and spreadsheets. And it says stronger internal controls are needed. And I think importantly, it says that Somerset Council requires a significant increase in the pace of improvement if it is to become financially sustainable. Now, CITFA are not the only body to raise concern about the lack of pace. Chair, the SIPFA report isn't assessing the former county council or the former 4 district councils. It is assessing Somerset Council, this council. It's assessing the systems, the governance, the leadership and financial management that have developed over the last 3 years. Now, if we are serious about getting Somerset working again, we cannot ignore an independent report that tells us fundamental improvements are needed. Now, every administration has its challenges, but what matters is how those challenges are managed. Chair, I know from my own experience running my own business that good financial management isn't an optional extra. It is fundamental to that business's success. If you don't have a grip on your finances, you don't just end up with untidy accounts, you make poor decisions. You can't plan properly. You can't invest where it's needed. And ultimately, the people who use your business receive a worse service. The same is true of this council. If we're to get Somerset working again, then good financial management must deliver better services for residents. Because bad financial management impacts planning, and residents tell us we have an unsatisfactory planning service. It impacts highways, and many residents still tell us that potholes are not being repaired or gullies are not being emptied. It impacts children's services, and we know those have deteriorated over the last 4 years, and it impacts adult social care. We know it's been rated as requiring improvement. But bad financial management impacts every service this council provides. And we know that when financial management is weak, the impact and consequences is felt across the organisation and ultimately by the residents we serve. I spent some time, Mr. Chairman, managing my local Chamber of Commerce, speaking to many businesses, and they understood that if they failed to deliver for their customers, those customers would simply take their businesses elsewhere. Their business elsewhere, sorry. Public services, however, don't have that luxury. Somerset residents can't simply choose another council if they live in Somerset. So that gives us as members an even greater responsibility to hold ourselves to account and to make sure we continuously improve. And that's exactly what this motion seeks to do. It asks that progress against improvement plan is reported regularly, that members can see whether milestones are being achieved, that we can measure whether the pace of improvement is sufficient, and that audit committee does report back to full council, so that all us members in this room have ownership and oversight of that progress. And I think those are sensible proposals, Mr. Chairman. Ultimately, our responsibility is to Somerset residents. They expect us to challenge poor performance, regardless of political party. They expect us to make sure improvements actually happen. And they expect us, all of us, to hold ourselves accountable. So, Chair, to sum up, 1 star out of 5. That's the independent verdict on Somerset Council's financial management. Residents are paying more, but too many services are falling short. People don't expect perfection, but they do expect competence and accountability. That's what this motion is proposing. Getting Somerset working again means fixing the finances, improving services, and restoring residents' confidence in their council. We on this side, Mr. Chairman, want to get Somerset working again. I'm pleased to second the motion.
Thank you, Diogo. Members will be reminded we've got 15 minutes for this debate with a limit on 2 minutes each speaker. So I'm going to go first to Andy Dingwall.
Thank you very much, Chair. Over the last few months that we've had the SIPFA report, I've heard from the Sector 151 officer and the administration through the executive meeting that the council voluntarily requested the SIPFA review, and the review highlighted strengths as well as weaknesses and areas for development. And while the results of the review aren't necessarily surprising to anyone in this chamber, they are still serious. This report, combined with the news we heard earlier this afternoon of the best value notice, means that now more than ever, I believe we need to increase transparency of reporting, ensuring clarity of the metrics and milestones on our way to financial sustainability. I believe this motion seeks to clarify seeks to provide that clarity, setting expectations of council and of the committees, the audit committees as well. I also believe as councillors, everyone in this room, myself included, we should redouble our own efforts at engagement with meetings and briefings. As councillors, we don't need to be a member of specific committees to provide our own wisdom and experience to the discussions. And with online contributions, we don't even need to log travel claims to do that. Personally, I try to get to as many scrutiny committees as I can, but I am guilty of not attending audit as much as I should. Something that I'm going to endeavour to change over the coming months, and hope to see more of my colleagues do the same.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to go to Mike Hewitson.
Thank you, Chair. As Chair of the Audit Committee, my role is independent of the administration and is not political. I work hard to keep the politics out of my committee, so I'm going to deal with this motion on its merits. On the 28th of May, the Audit Committee considered the SIPFA review in public. We did not politely note it and move on. We called it a realistic baseline, and we demanded accelerated improvement, the very words that this motion quotes back at us. We then endorsed the Building Better Finance programme as the single consolidated response to SIPFA and to our internal and external auditors. Oversight of that programme is not missing. It sits exactly where the Constitution puts it and is already on my committee's work programme. So what does this motion actually add? Not resources. It commits none. Not information. The reports it requests are already coming to Audit Committee alongside the transformation programme updates. What it adds is a reporting frequency that the monitoring officer and the Section 151 officer, on the face of the motion itself, advise against. A motion about heeding professional financial advice should probably start by heeding professional financial advice. There are no published reports of any council achieving more than 3 stars, but members should know what recovery looks like. Birmingham went from 1 to 3 stars in 2 years and was called exemplar. Sandwell went from 2 to 3 in 12 months. In every case, the proof was not a quarterly paper, it was SIPFA coming back and rerunning the assessment, which SIPFA themselves have recommended we do. Let's be clear, I will hold this programme to account regardless of how this vote falls. That is my job. But if members want real accountability rather than the appearance of it, back the periodic reporting our officers advise, and back the independent reassessment from SIPFA in 18 months' time. Take the politics out of it. Had I been consulted or asked to co-author a motion on this subject, which I was not, I would have made the motion more meaningful. This is especially important in light of the best value notice issued today. As this could not reasonably have been foreseen, I would therefore move an amendment under section 3.49 of the Council's procedure rules. Number 1, to substitute periodic for the word quarterly in Resolution 1. Number 2, to substitute annual for the word 6 monthly in Resolution 2, both in line with officers' advice. And 3, I would insert a new resolution to request the Executive Commission an independent reassessment of the Council against the SIPFA financial model, as recommended by the SIPFA report, within 18 months with the outcome published and reported to the Audit Committee and to full Council.
Thank you, Mike. So do you have a seconder for that? Tim Curley.
Thank you, Chair. See if I can get it right this time. Happy to second this amendment.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Just bear with me, members. Okay, members, just getting some clarity there. So we're now debating the amendment. So I'm going to go to Dawn first of all, was the original proposer, and say to Dawn, are you happy with that amendment?
Chair, can I ask just for clarity? Could you reread what the amendment was? So I can jot it as you say it, please.
You want it reread, Diego? Yeah? Sure, certainly. Mike, I'll give you a little bit more time to read that slower. I know you're against the clock, but if you could read it so Diego's got the full details. Thank you.
So, number 1, in line with officers' advice, to substitute the word periodic for quarterly in Resolution 1. And number 2, to substitute the word annual for the word 6 monthly in Resolution 2. Third resolution was to request that the Executive commission an independent reassessment of the Council against the SIPFA financial model as recommended by the SIPFA in its report within 18 months. The reason I've said 18 months rather than 12, I'll come back to in a moment, with the outcome published and reported to the Audit Committee and to full Council. The reason I've recommended 18 rather than 12, which was in the original report, is that that will give the new Council 2 months post election to respond. So I felt 18 months was actually a more reasonable time frame.
Thank you, Mike. Dawn.
Yeah, so just a word of clarity. Quarterly, that's what we've got written down. Is that what you're saying for periodic?
So officers' advice was to change the reporting period to periodic rather than quarterly.
Okay, and then okay, you wanted annual, and just wanted a question about the financial implications of any external reporting assessment. Is there any financial implications in relation to officers?
Thank you, Dawn. I'll need to seek some advice there. Probably Clive, would you mind coming in on that one? That was fine. Yeah, that's fine, Dawn. It's been confirmed. Clive said that's fine.
So it may be, Chair, whether a 5-minute break just for clarity on to get some of the answers questioned rather than, this isn't a debate at the minute. So if there's a reassessment, independent reassessment.
Point of order, please. The motion has been proposed and seconded.
So I'm going to ask clarity to Dawn here. Sorry to put you on the spot, Dawn. Do you, as chair here, I need to sort of get an answer here. Do you accept the amendment
No,
as
not
proposed?
all the amendments, no.
Sorry?
Not all the amendments.
Not all the amendments. Okay, fine. So we're now debating the amendment. And I've had hands up already, but I'm going to have to reset that. So who would like to speak on the amendment as discussed, please? Right, okay. So I'm going to go to Andy first.
Thank you very much, Chair. I very, very strongly believe that in light of the best value notice, the word periodic into the amendment is not specific enough for a council that needs to pay attention to its finances at the highest possible priority. Periodic is vague. Does that mean, in my world, periodic reporting is monthly? Because monthly financial reporting periods. Is that what the word periodic means here, or do we mean 9 monthly or 13 monthly? You know, it's not defined. We need absolute definition. This is something of the absolute highest priority. We need to be very specific here, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Diego, your hand was next.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think certainly in light of the best value notice especially, that changing what we are asking officers to do, which is work towards a timeline, which shouldn't be unreasonable for us as elected members to ask officers to do a piece of work within a set period of time, shouldn't be unacceptable or unreasonable. I do have the same concerns as Andy, changing a quarterly reporting to periodic. That could mean in 10 years' time, who knows? I mean, I don't know what that means at all. And I don't think that stresses enough the urgency to be on top of this, particularly in light of that best value notice. I would question, Chair, whether the amendment to periodic and the amendment to annual, if that was really unforeseen, that couldn't have been a submitted amendment prior to today. I appreciate the additional recommendation, the last one put in, maybe as a result of the best value notice requiring a further independent reassessment. I appreciate that may not have been foreseen because it's a result of that best value notice. But asking for a word change from quarterly to periodic and a word change from 6 months to annually, I would argue that's against the Constitution, because the best value notice makes no difference. If it was because of the best value notice, I would put to you that the request would actually be 1 monthly rather than quarterly, and instead of 6 monthly, it'd be 3 monthly, be a bit more urgency rather than pushing it down the can. So I'd question the constitutional element of that, and I'd put to you that those two shouldn't be accepted for constitutional reasons. And also on the additional recommendation, which I can accept. I am generally interested, is there no financial implication to doing what's been asked in terms of that independent reassessment, and who's going to do it, I mean, I don't know any of that, whether there's going to be additional resource to the authority. So just some clarity, just to make sure that we're not voting or potentially voting for something which has an unforeseen impact financially or resource that perhaps wasn't envisaged, please.
Okay, thanks, Diego. I appreciate your requirement for governance on the Constitution here, so I'm going to pass over to Alan here to give me some guidance. Thank you, Diego. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you, Chair. Ultimately, it's for members to determine, in the sense that the matter has come up as a result of the best value notice. That is what Councillor Hewitton has said, and he believes as a result of that statement, if I'm to take what he has said as accurate, essentially that means that he believes in order to put those motions forward, he believes those amendments are, in his view, necessary and appropriate in light of that information. That's the way it's been taken. That's why I believe it would be in compliance with the Constitution for members for notices to amendments without notice.
Chair, can I ask?
Thank you, Alan. Just bear with me, Mandy. I'll come to you in just a second. Peter C.
Point of order, Chair.
Just bear with me, Peter. Mandy, you've got a point of order. What rule is there a point of order? What part?
3.51 of the Constitution says amendments must be in writing and on notice under Rule 3.30 unless the amendment arises during the debate and could not have been reasonably foreseen. The presenter of the amendment did say he had sought officer advice, so therefore it was foreseen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. I'll refer that again. Thank you. Alan.
So I think
Sorry, point of order, Chair. I hadn't sought officer advice. It was in the covering report.
So clearly that item was already discussed as part of being in the officer advice, and of course motions could be moved under 3.63 within the Constitution, to be clear.
Let's go to Peter. On the amendment, Peter.
Chairman, I'm glad that's through, because nobody's actually seen whatever this best value notice is going to be yet. We've had warning there is one on its way, and it has yet to actually be, it will tell us what to do. My concern is, unless we take the amendment as proposed, we could end up clashing with the best value requirement. For example, it might ask for a different periodicity. It might be asking for quarterly, it might be asking for monthly, it might be asking for bi-monthly or 6 monthly. Either way, it will be different from what is in the motion. So the idea of a periodic one makes a lot more sense, which is probably why the officer advice was there. And I also can't ignore the very good argument made by the Chair of Audit that if you are responding to an adverse comment from CIPFA by repeating the error, you are repeating the error very loudly. They have suggested that you listen to the advice of officers, and no matter how much you wish to ignore that, the officer's advice is clear in the papers before you for this debate. I think the amendment only delivers what we've been advised to do, and I do think that the addition of the further investigation by CIPFA is also in line with the advice that we've had, but not from our own officers, from CIPFA. So it actually, what the Chair of Audit has proposed as an amendment makes a colossal amount of sense to me.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, I've got no other hands, so I'm going to go back to the seconder. So this was Tim Curley. Tim, have you got anything you'd like to sum up before we pass back to the proposer?
Thank you, Chair. I just think this amendment goes further than the original motion, and I'm very much in line with Jill's wishes that we expedite processes. So quite happy to second.
Point of order, Chair, before we go to the vote.
Yeah. Go on.
I'd like to revisit 3.51, and because it says on there the Chair's ruling on the validity of an amendment is final. So as Chair, I'm assuming that would be your decision. The argument that I would like again to put is that 3.51 says unless it could not have been unreasonably foreseen, those amendments. I would put to you, Chair, before you make your decision, that we've heard from the proposer of the amendment that the wording that he used was written in the report, which was published and read in within the time frame allowed to then put forward a written amendment. So that report was seen and read as has been explained. That wasn't provided in the time frame required for a written amendment, but as being provided today. So I would put to you that the two changes of wording in terms of periodic and annually would not be in line with the constitutional requirements. But the fourth, the additional line, I would say, is in line with constitutional requirements because it's in light of the best value notice. But that's up to you as chair to rule on the validity of that amendment before we go to a vote.
Okay, thank you, Diego. That's very kind of you. It is obviously ultimately my decision, but you'll appreciate I need to take some advice, so thank you. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, well, okay, Diego, I am going to accept the amendment, okay? I am going to accept the amendment, and I'm going to give you the rationale to why after seeking advice from the monitoring officer, okay? Thank you, Diego. If you'd be kind enough to listen, I'd be really grateful. Thank you.
So I've got the chief exec, got the monitoring officer. So the Constitution is very, very clear in the rules, but we do need to be careful we don't end up just rules lawyering everything. Councillor Hewitson made the amendment. He said that this is what he wants to put. I don't think we as council are questioning his word about when he first had that idea or when he thought about it. Councillor Hewitson has been clear that when he put that, I think when members speak, we have to accept that they are being truthful and genuine in what they say, and therefore I don't think that's a valid point for the Constitution. We would always encourage all members to put any amendment forward as soon as possible in writing, so all members have got sight of it in advance. But the Constitution does allow members to put amendments from the floor during the debate, and that's what's happened. So it is up to the chair to decide, but I think you're deciding that you're accepting the amendment.
Yeah, on what the advice I've been given. Thank you, Diego. I'm going to accept the amendment. So I'm going to go back to where we were. Tim, you were seconding it. So would you mind summing your little bit up, please?
I think I'd already done that, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Mike, you're the proposer. Anything more you'd like to say?
No, I think just to clarify for everyone, we don't know what the best value notice says right now, and to tie council into specific actions, I think is tricky. In the SIPFA report, it talks about us not rushing to defined outcomes or metrics before we ensure that the processes are fit for purpose. So I want to make sure that we've got those processes right as an organisation to make sure that everything that follows on from that is meaningful. My intention is not to delay. My intention from the moment that I became aware of the outcome of the financial management report was to seek as fast an improvement in this authority as is possible. Officers came back with a timeline of 36 months, and immediately I challenged them to go faster. I want to make sure that we get back to a position where the council is held in good esteem by our professional colleagues, but it is really important to me that we follow due process and we make sure that SIPFA themselves can come in. It's not us marking our own homework. We have to have external validation to give members of the public assurance that the council is improving. The periodicity of the reporting does provide some degree of flexibility. Councillor Dingwall is absolutely correct. My intention is to provide as much information to this council and as quickly as possible, because I see this as a high priority area for the council. I wouldn't want to be held to a quarterly target because there are many competing interests across this council. This council has hundreds of improvement recommendations across different areas and aspects. SIPFA is obviously an important stakeholder and we need to take it seriously, but we need to make sure that there's adequate flexibility to make sure that high priority areas that for action that have come from elsewhere, peer challenge, area inspections, etc., are also given adequate and due weighting. So that is the reason I brought this amendment today in light of the best value notice, which is a serious intervention from government. And I want to be clear that I'm strengthening this motion. I am not standing in the way or trying to frustrate it.
Okay, thank you, Mike. We've got obviously a proposer and a seconder, so I'd like you to read, it would help, I think, all members for you to read that amendment out that we will now vote on. Could you just clarify and read that amendment out? Because I'm going to now move to a vote on that amendment.
Right. So, number 1, substitute periodic for the word quarterly in resolution 1. Number 2, substitute the word annual for 6 monthly in resolution 2, in line with officers' advice. And Amendment 3 was to insert a new resolution to request the Executive Commission an independent reassessment of the Council against the SIPFA financial management model as recommended in the SIPFA report within 18 months, with the outcome published and reported to the Audit Committee and to full Council.
Thank you. So can I have members' votes here, which will make this a substantive motion if it's carried? So those in favour of this motion, please raise your hands, please. The amendment, sorry, yeah. Those in favour of the amendment. Who's counting? Keep your hands up, please, if you would. Thank you, members. Anyone against? Okay. Any abstentions? 1, yeah. Okay, so that amendment is carried. So that amendment will now be the substantive motion that we're debating. And I've got 3 speakers on my pad from the previous, this one will be the substantive. So I'm going to now go to Gwyl Wren.
Right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Am I confused? I don't know, probably. The first thing I wanted to sort of just was clarify that was the best value notice, because we seem to be in a sea of notices washing against each other, and I want to make sure that we understand it, because the press release that's just come out says that the best notice value is a formal non-statutory improvement and assurance plan whereas actually if you go to the LGIU guidance, it says there are 2 types. One's non-statutory, which may simply ask for more information and evidence of improvement and act as a warning, and there's a statutory one where government requires direct engagement with ministers. And I thought that's what the leader was referring to when he introduced the item earlier today. So I would like clarification on whether it's a statutory or a non-statutory one. The best value thing has to be sorted out within 12 months. The SIPFA report or SIPFA review runs for 18 months and is already running. My main question is really to what extent, and I appreciate that the notice hasn't been received yet, so this is going to be difficult to answer, to what extent do the 2 cross over? Because clearly we don't want to be duplicating work. And I also would like to understand in a world of top trumps, which is the most important? Is it the best to deal with? Is it to prioritise the best value notice? Or is it to deal with the SIPFA review? Because, I mean, clearly that they are related, but one on a shorter deadline is going to be with very serious consequences. And I suppose I'm just seeking assurance, really, that the interaction of the 2 will be treated the same. And I listened to what Mr. Hewittson's saying about or Councillor Hewittson's saying about the Audit Committee. I sit on the Audit Committee, and I'm perfectly happy that we deal with it, and we will deal with it as and when it comes through. But I would like, possibly from Mr. Heapy, an understanding of the differences between the 2 and what that requires us to do and how quickly. Sorry, I did say I was a bit confused, so apologies for that.
That's okay, Gwyl. I'm told by the Chief Executive there will be a member briefing note coming out shortly that will cover all your questions. Thank you. I'm now going to go to John Cook-Woodman, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed that we've now got a watering down of financial rigour, which I'm not surprised. It's probably the reason why we're in this situation with our finances. So what I was going to say was we should have the best value notice in this reporting, because it can be removed within a year. So I just wondered if you were looking for any targets to improve within that year and get this notice taken off.
Thank you, John. As I say, there is going to be a members' note coming out shortly. Hopefully that will cover your questions as well. Sarah Wakefield.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that nobody on this side underestimates the seriousness of the financial position of this council, and any suggestion that we do is, honestly, it's rejected. We think about it all the time. Of course we do. I do want to make the point that we inherited an underfunded social care system, an untested finance system, outdated pay structures, and years of financial pressures that predated the Unitary Council. So that has to be dealt with. And whatever might be said, this council is not run like a business. We have demand-led services, statutory requirements that we must comply with. We cannot not do that. Casey is looking at adult services. As the leader has said whenever he has the opportunity, they are ridiculously funded by a local tax that is not designed for them. Governments have loaded local authorities with more services in the implementation of centralised policies. This is not an easy task. It is not a simple tick box exercise. It is not a simple mathematical sum. We have addressed as an administration all the problems that have arisen throughout the time we've been administering this council, and we have made our very best efforts to do the best we can to keep the services that people want, as well as getting the finances sorted out. We are making progress. We really are making progress, and I believe that this best value notice is nothing more than a recognition, as we all do, of the situation we are in, and we are making progress towards sorting that out every day, and with all the hard work of all the councillors on all the committees. So I commend the amendment that the Audit Committee Chair has made, because I think the Audit Committee will have a very important role over the next few months in looking at what happens next. But I just wanted to make the point, as I said at the beginning, nobody in this council should underestimate the seriousness with which we on this side have been running and looking after the finances. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Liz Lation.
Thank you, Chair. There is a great deal going on in this council, and so I do understand Councillor Wren's position of believing himself to be confused. I don't believe Councillor Wren gets confused very often, but I would just point out that at the Audit Committee meeting on the, I think it was the 28th of May, we had the CITFA FM review report, and immediately following it, we had the Financial Management Improvement Plan called Building Better Finance. That was introduced by our Section 151 officer, Clive Heafy, and he introduced the report setting out the Financial Improvement Plan, which is the Council's formal response to the findings of CIPFA, external audit and internal review work. I am absolutely certain that whilst we will expand our work to respond to the best value notice, that it is on the same subject, Chair. And that work of the Financial Improvement Plan, of course, will go to the Inspiring Innovation Assurance Board. That will then come to the Executive. The Corporate and Strategic Scrutiny Committee then hold the Executive to account. We already have that route through our democratic services processes, and we will now, with the Chair of Audit's amendment, have a very clear route through audit as well. So I welcome this motion in bringing this to audit very clearly, as well as the other route. I do believe that the word periodic is more flexible, and we would not want to be working on something quarterly if we needed to have an extraordinary audit committee meeting, which we have in the past and we may again. So I do support this motion in its amended form. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. That's our 15 minutes on this motion. So I'm going to, on the amended motion, I'm going to pass back to the proposer to sum up before we go to the vote on this one. Then we will have a comfort break, members. Mike.
So I think we've had long enough to discuss it, Chair. I think I'd like to move the motion.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. I don't think Councillor Hewitson was the proposer of the substantive. I think that was it came from opposite.
Just for clarity, you're now voting on the proposed amendment. The proposer of that amendment is Councillor Hewitson, seconded by Councillor Coates.
My recollection is we voted on the amendment.
Sorry, let's be clear. Council, the amendment's already been accepted. It becomes substantive. No, Councillor Hewittson the proposer of substantive.
Point of order, Chair. Would that not mean that were Councillor Hewitson so wished he could withdraw the amendment now, and it's Dawn's amendment, it's Dawn's motion. Don't do that.
Chair,
Just bear with us, guys. You've got some good points. With the governance guys are working behind me to try and give you an answer. Okay.
So just be clear, you can't withdraw an item once it's been debated without council's agreement, so that wouldn't be an issue. But we are just clarifying. I don't think this has happened before, so we're checking.
Okay, members, what we're going to do, if it's okay with you, we're going to break for a comfort break now so the legal eagles can decide which way we're going to go on this. For yours, yeah, and then we'll vote when we come back, if that's all right with everybody. So if we can have 15-minute break, be back at 15:15, members. Thank you very much for your time. Okay, members, welcome back. Thank you very much indeed for coming back so promptly. Good to see you all back here. So, following the debate prior to the break, I've sought legal advice. We've got the decision. I'm going to hand over to the monitoring officer who is going to tell you the decision. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Council. Firstly, apologies, Chair and Council, for my advice earlier. That was incorrect. What we should be doing now is the matter should be referred back to the proposer of the motion, which would be Councillor Denton. Councillor Denton will have the opportunity to sum up, and then we will move to vote. Again, my apologies, Chair, for the confusion.
Not at all. Thank you very much indeed, Alan. So I have pleasure in handing it back to Dawn. Dawn, please sum up. You've got 3 minutes.
Well, it's apparently a first, and my mother always said I was very special, so I'm quite proud of that. So just a couple of points, really, is that the motion asked to request. So it wasn't to necessarily do, but just to request. And the second point I wanted to raise was that a report to the audit committee did not necessarily mean in person. It could just have been a written report, just for update, because pace is a real problem. And when we're in a crisis, we really do need to increase the pace. And with the notice of best value being issued, that's all the more reason why we need to be doing things faster, quicker, and tighter, really. So, yeah, that's all I really wanted to add. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dawn. So we're going to move to the vote, which is the amendment. Can I have hands up, please, for those members in favour, please, of the amended motion? Yeah. Amended motion, yeah. Thank you very much. Anybody against?
No, that's fine.
No. Any abstentions?
No.
He has his hand up, I think. Yeah. Okay, that motion is carried. Thank you very much indeed, members. Thank you. Before we go to the final motion, and sorry for the delay, Andy, we have a birthday to celebrate today. I hope members won't mind a little bit of a light, humorous touch. So we have the self-imposed father of the house here, Hugh Davis, who is 85 years young today. And I think it would be nice if we sung him a little song. Should we sing him happy birthday? Happy
birthday to you. Happy
birthday, dear.
Thank you, members. That's very kind. And congratulations to you, Hugh. Many, many happy returns. Okay, motion C, strengthening planning enforcement and protecting communities. So I'm delighted to hand over to my good friend Andy Dingwall, who's been waiting patiently in the wings, who's going to propose this motion. Over to you, Andy.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for allowing this motion to come to the Chamber today. Councillors, I'd like you to imagine a village. In this village, there's agreement among all of the residents that everyone put their fences in the same place around their property. Most people follow the rules. It's what their neighbours do, and it's the right thing to do to boot. One day, though, a resident replacing his broken fence moves it a foot further out than it should be. It's only a foot, think the neighbours. No big deal. Because nothing's done about it, another neighbour pushes theirs out a foot too. Nothing happened to them either. It's only a foot out after all. Before long, people start to think that breaking the rules is fine. There's no consequence to it after all, until everyone tries to take their extra foot of land and there's not enough to go around. You can see how resentment and conflict will quickly build throughout this community. And it's not because the rules were unclear or unfair, but because no one was willing to enforce them. There's a real risk that this is where we find ourselves in Somerset today. The council has quite rightly spent time, effort and money on improving the planning application service. Following the Conservative planning motion last year, the work on educating applicants and getting applications processed in good time is now helping get new homes built and allowing businesses to grow. However, there are a number of cases across Somerset where we see the neighbour moving the fence. Across the county, members on both sides of the chamber will be familiar with examples where residents and parish councils have raised concerns that planning conditions, unauthorised development or changes of use, and have then questioned whether enforcement processes are operating as effectively or as swiftly as they would expect. In the worst cases, such as those seen on the Western Zoyland airfield in my own patch, we see conditions put in place by planners, parish council members, members of planning committees and statutory consultees such as the EA routinely ignored. This understandably causes friction within the community as they see large companies treat the rules as optional and they get away with it. The companies see this conflict in the community as an acceptable cost of doing business and continue to bend or breach conditions. This motion that I'm putting today asks for something very simple. It asks us to review whether our enforcement policy, procedures, standards and reporting arrangements are delivering the outcomes that our residents expect. It doesn't presume the answer, it doesn't seek to prejudice individual cases. It simply recognises that confidence in the planning system depends not only on making decisions, but ensuring those decisions mean something. That's why the motion proposes a 6-month reporting period, not because the review should be rushed, but because our residents expect this issue to be treated as a top priority. In fact, just this very afternoon, a Facebook post that I put out mentioning that I was bringing this motion forward was immediately commented on by someone saying it wasn't going to happen fast enough. When people stop believing that the fences we put up matter, they soon stop believing in the system that put them there in the first place. So I commend this motion to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Barry Clark, I understand you're seconding this, Barry. Would you like to speak now or reserve your right?
Speak now, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
I hope this motion will be of interest to all members, as it affects all our parish residents equally. They are the people who bear the brunt of enforcement problems. Whilst a complaint may be coded serious or minor, red or green by enforcement, that is irrelevant to those who make the complaint. They are all serious to them. I and Councillor Ham have 15 parishes, 10 of which have current enforcement issues. Of those issues, 2 are so old that they're now time expired. And when planners attach conditions to permissions, we don't know how they're enforced, if they're enforced. The planners tell us that it's a problem for the public. They must engage and report. I wonder how that will happen on a site like Selwood Garden Village that will have 17 houses built out by probably 10 different contractors in the next 10 years. We hear that enforcement is being resourced with more people, but the lengthy training periods ensure that no benefits are being felt yet. Last month, the planning report at the strategic planning showed an increase in the number of cases outstanding of 1,136, up from 877 in just 15 months. It is worthwhile putting this figure in perspective. During the latter years of Mendip District Council, enforcement was an issue then, and a councillor was tasked on working on a backlog then, 10 years ago, of 800 cases. So, this much later, we have no answers to the problem of enforcement. To show how these things affect our local communities, on Monday evening, I attended a parish council meeting where they were discussing the sale of a field that had been parcelled up into several plots. People are now openly living on those plots and building whatever they wish. And they've all been given assurances that nothing will happen to them and they can all live them on there quite safely and do what they want. They're living off grid. There's no attempt at getting any formal permission whatsoever. So inaction will lead to another development in mine and Phillips division. We have people elsewhere have set up on old quarry land where we've got 5, 6 people in different sorts of trailers and sheds and all sorts of things. Due to Mendip's intransigence, and at the time they were the authority, those people have been there for so long that they are immovable, and their encampment is causing potential traffic problems. This is why local enforcement is so important, in my view, to be done and done quickly. Yet we're not making any progress, and I second this motion for the members' consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. I'm out to members. The first hand I saw up was Tom Power.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure that this will be felt right across all sides of the room, that planning enforcement is becoming a toxic issue and is one that we all can't get away from, especially with our town and parish councils. Enforcement is so scarce that the people aren't seeing it as a deterrent anymore, and this will become dangerous precedent to set. I know the officer's review on the motion was that they couldn't get the review done within 6 months and felt that 12 months would be better. I would appreciate the support for a 6-month period, as it's absolutely plenty of time to review something that should be done of the highest priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Bill.
Thank you, Chair. And first of all, just relay apologies from the portfolio holder, Councillor Mike Rigby, who's at the UK Nuclear Decommissioning Forum and so is not able to be here to respond on behalf of the service that he's responsible for and to speak on this motion. And I don't think anybody in the room disagrees with the sentiments of the motion at all. We recognise that enforcement isn't where we want it to be, that there are a number of issues behind that, and so much so that Councillor Rigby and colleagues from planning brought a proposal to colleagues on the 19th of May to start working up a business plan around taking action to develop that. It's fully recognised that there have been issues with vacancies in the team, that there have been incredibly complex cases, that the volume of cases coming in has been really difficult. We've also had developers that are, quite frankly, testing the boundaries of what they can get away with a system that isn't able to respond. We're aware that there is perhaps lower tolerance of people trying it on at the moment as well, and I think that's possibly fed through social media, and a general antipathy against all development, which is perhaps we need to manage expectations. That has led to low levels of satisfaction from us all as councillors, from parish councillors, from the public, and that does create almost like a doom loop around the whole enforcement service. So we do recognise the reputational damage that's done to the council, and that impacts the credibility of the planning service, and it undermines. The developers are seen to get away with it, and that's not a world that we want to be in. So we want to take action. Taking action doesn't mean having a review, because I don't think policy is the problem here. I think the problem here is resource. We need to get the service into a point where it can implement what is already there. And unfortunately, this motion, the recommendations are to agree to undertake a review of the policy and associated procedures. We don't need a review, we need resource, and that's where it's really important that our officers and Councillor Rigby and his team have been working up a business case that they can present to executive that will solve the problem. The review will actually slow that down. And so with the best of intentions, this motion's been brought forwards, but my view is that this will actually go against the objectives that it's trying to achieve by slowing down that business case as we do a review before that business case happens. So that these two things would be happening in parallel is really difficult. So we are very much, as administration, looking at how we can find an increase to increase the complement of officers within the team. We're also looking at how we can find the resource to put in a surge capacity to be able to clear the backlog. We are looking at ways in which we can increase income to be able to make that business case sustainable and work through. That business case isn't yet available. And that's the difficulty that we have today with this motion, is it's asking us to start a review before we've even got the business case that would probably answer the questions and the issues that the proposers have put forwards. So the difficulty we now have is that we've got a motion that's asking us to do work that will actually not help us to make progress to achieve the overall objectives. So, with regret, I would suggest that this isn't the right approach. The right approach is for that business case to come forwards, for that business case to go to scrutiny, for scrutiny to take the input from all members, because all members should be involved in scrutiny, and for then that to come to executive for decision. Those are issues that are already in process. So we are in that position where we're already taking action, not doing reviews, action to be able to do this. Now, this was shared, I believe, at a planning member briefing on the 11th of June. This motion was put in on the 25th of June. It has been suggested that there may be an attempt to steal Councillor Rigby's clothes. That's a sight that no one wants to see. I would suggest that we let the business plan take its course, that we come to scrutiny, come to executive. We do not need a review of policy and practice here. What we need is action and resource, and that's what we're committed to doing. So I would prefer it if the motion were withdrawn on that understanding, but if not, with regret, we will be voting against, but we fully accept the principles behind it and the aspiration behind this motion. Thank you.
I'll pull Martin Whalen, if I may. He was next.
Thank you, Chairman. Enforcement, frankly, has always been a Cinderella service, not only this council, but in the former district councils. And I'm afraid that the fairy godmother isn't going to appear with any reviews or whatever you like to think, perhaps. But also, of course, if any members who have attended strategic planning will know that we have quality statistics thrown at us and have done since the start of this council. And each meeting where those statistics come up, the questions are always concerning enforcement from members from all sides of this council, not just from this side. It is a fact that, of course, this council inherited hundreds and hundreds of enforcement cases, and it was extremely difficult. But in fact, it has got more difficult because they're being added to all the time. And if the figures given to us at strategic planning are anything to go by, nothing very much has been done. And that's the reason this motion here, to try and progress. And I'm glad to hear that Councillor Rigby is doing a report. I hadn't heard anything about this at strategic planning. I'm sure it has been in the books for some time, but it seems to have suddenly appeared. But however, I'm mindful of the spirit of this motion, which I think we can all support. And I rather hope there is some way that we can all support this today, because this shouldn't be allowed to go on any longer. It is, for anybody who goes to parish council meetings, know what the problem is. And not only is it damaging our public confidence, it is also severely damaging this council's reputation. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. I've got a number of hands up here that, due to the time restraints, I won't be able to get every member in. So I'm going to go on a first come, first served. So I'm going to go next to Liz Lation, please.
Thank you, Chair. I do have, I do share the concerns about planning enforcement. There's not a single member in this room who won't share that concern. Interesting that maybe something that Councillor Butt-Phillip would have said, that actually there's a briefing for parish, town and city council clerks today. And that includes slides on planning enforcement and the work that is undergoing already on the business case. So I would share the leader's concern that the one thing we don't want to do is slow this work down, and therefore I cannot support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. I'm going to go to Mark Healy, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I feel quite honoured now because I think I must have been one of the last people to put my hands up, but thank you for the opportunity. I welcome what the Leader of Council has said about actually putting a priority now on getting things done, because on 2 occasions, as the Leader and yourself know, Chairman, I've brought this to full council. It's the biggest concern at every parish council we all go to, not me, we all go to. Even last night was the same thing. Enforcement, where's the enforcement officers? What about planning? Unfortunately, I'm going to tell the truth, Chairman, if you don't mind. Somebody said to me, this planning department is an absolute joke. They don't do anything. I've got people, as you know, land agents can't get anything passed. They don't get paid. They're going bankrupt. I've got developers now saying we want to build social housing in my own division as well. We can't get it through. What's going on? And also, the Leader of the Council did point out they're looking to help fund it financially. I don't know whether you're aware or not. When a planning permission goes in, they have to pay so much money, and there's a gold, like a gold avenue you can go down to get your planning application for developers moving quicker, and it's not cheap. It is not cheap at all. People have done that, and they said we're still at the back of the queue. What is going on? You've taken our money. Where is it? So I welcome the fact of what the leaders said. I'd like it done, and I'm sure every member in this room would like it done ASAP. This sounds to me at the moment it's going to go through committee, going to go through that, going to go through the other. That could take a year. We haven't got a year. We haven't got a month. But why don't we do the compromise, if I may, run both in tandem? Let Andy's proposal go through, but also look at what the Leader of the Council is saying about doing that as well. That's a double insurance. That's what I'm getting at. I'll shut up now, Chairman. You'll be delighted to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Michael Dunk. Sorry, beg your pardon. I saw a hand going out. Beg your pardon. Sorry.
Yeah, I put my hand up ages ago. Thank you.
Introduce yourself.
Okay, I've been rather thrown. I was going to speak in favour of the motion, and I am still inclined to, but just bear with me because I've taken on board what Bill has said about the business case for enforcement. So first of all, I just want to agree with the spirit of the motion because I've seen it firsthand. I'm in a division where 800 houses are being built out, and we've just had approval for another 1,700 to be built out, and it's just the developers are taking the mickey everywhere. So I was going to ask for any kind of review to include looking at the officers and councillors working together, not just officers doing it internally, but councillors on some kind of working group as well. I was going to ask to look at how the work was triaged. We hear that the enforcement officers triage the work, and I'm never quite sure why some things get put in a higher category than others. I wanted to look at timelines and the time on the system. Does that include, like, for example, what Councillor Clark said about some of these enforcement cases have been on the system for so long? Does that mean that they go up in the triage system, or do we just let them go? I wanted to ask about the additional measures. At the moment, we seem to have a softly approach to trying to get people who do things that they shouldn't be doing to put in a retrospective planning application, but maybe we should be being more punitive and looking at finding them or getting them to take things down. And also, are we actually monitoring anything at all with conditions and Section 106, or is that really just up to the divisional councillor to do so? If these things are all, they're all things I would like to be including a review. However, if there is a business case, now I want to ask, if there is a business case, rate enforcement, I know that Mike Rigby isn't here to answer the questions, but I just wanted to ask if any of those things were covered in the business case and how long a business case would take to get up and running, because that may make me decide which way I'm going to vote on this. Yep.
Thank you, Alan. Apologies for getting the name wrong as well. I saw a hand over there, and there we are. So thank you. Okay, we've got one more speaker within timescale here, I'm afraid, even though there are 4 waiting. I'm going to call in Lee Redman.
I hope I can get some answers to that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. A few very quick points. First of all, just the greatest respect to our officers in the enforcement team at the moment, who are doing an amazing job, considering the amount of pressure, time, and all the other bits that are coming on to them. Thank you to the leader for the clarification, because the questions I was going to ask was how much it's going to cost, who's going to do it, because they're already busy team and enforcement, etc., etc. So the fact that there's a business case being put forward makes me feel a bit more comfortable. That we will have the details before we actually move forward with this. So because to me, sort of a business, the return on investment is important, and the fact that let's know how much it's going to cost before we go through it. But then to hear a suggestion that we run both at the same time, duplication, double the costs at a time when we're already being criticised for what we're spending when we're spending, seems a little bit frustrating. But there you are. Following the clarification from Leader of Council and the fact that the business case, we wouldn't be able to support the motion as it stands, and we would be looking to see the business case reported so that we can actually move forward with this in a meaningful way. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Okay, let's time up on this emotion. So I'm going to pass back now to the proposer, Andy, if you'd like to sum up for us. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you very much, Chair. And on advice of a previous conversation with the CEO, I'm afraid I'm unable to withdraw. Not afraid, I am unable to withdraw the motion because the debate started. Although, having listened to the debate, I wouldn't look to anyway. I absolutely fully welcome.
Can I interrupt, Andy? I think the Chief Executive said you can ask Council to withdraw the motion.
I'm not going to do that.
Fine.
I'm not going to do that. I absolutely fully welcome the information about progressing the business case for plan enforcement. In the position I have as opposition spokesperson with responsibility for planning, I've heard both the frustrations and the aspirations of the service. I know where they're looking to get to, and it's you know, I hear the frustrations from them as well as from the residents and parish councils. The motion that we're put today has requested the executive consider producing a report. If the executive consider the report's not appropriate and a clearly laid out timeline and for the presentation and execution of a business case is the better route, I'm all for that. I want action more than I want reports. I would suggest gently that a business case without a policy review may not land on the correct policy, and a policy review might be appropriate in that instance. But my key issue here, my key belief here is that as it stands, our residents don't believe us when we say planning enforcement is under review. We're putting a business case together for planning enforcement. Residents don't believe that. Parish councils don't believe that. Accepting this motion will go some way to publicly reassuring residents and parishes that we do mean business, that we are looking at this. There's a process going on and the business case is coming forward. That's me, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, members, so we have a fully proposed and seconded motion in front of us that's listed on pages 131 to 32. We'll now move to a vote on this motion specifically. So those members who are in favour of this motion, please raise your hands. Somebody are you counting? Thank you, members. Those against the motion, please raise your hands. Motion's clear, they lost. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just going to just in case they ask, just in case they ask, yeah. Okay. All right. Happy. Any abstentions, please, members? 5. Thank you, members. So that motion is lost. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 11, summary of key decisions taken since the last full council meeting. I'm going to pass over to Bill. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Just to formally present this list of decisions taken since the last full council, and should there be any questions, happy to do my best.
Thank you, Bill. Any questions to the leader, please? Diogo.
Yeah, just one question, if I may. On the 1st of July 2026 agenda for executive, the investment in SEND on there, in light of the best value notice, which talks about the need for the authority to strengthen management of key services, including SEND, can I ask the leader, does he think that within that £5 million investment in SEND, that there is provision enabled to be able to do perhaps what the best value notice is asking around the strengthening of the management of SEND?
If I could pass on to Councillor Shearer, who took that through, although it's not currently her responsibility, because that's moved in the reshuffle. But if I could ask Councillor Shearer to take that.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. Yes, the intent of that paper was to ensure that we were redressing some of the findings we had discovered, if you like, findings we found from our restructure from April 25, when we realised in trying to take out some of the costs around our organisation across the entire piece, we'd actually made a bit of a miscalculation with some of our structures and had taken out a layer of management from the wrong spot. So part of that Descend paper was to address some of that balance, bring some more resources in on a short-term basis until we get our restructure and all of our managerial positions properly in place. So yes, I think that is actually in the spirit of it, because we need to ensure that all the resources we have are doing absolutely everything they can within a value for money context, and that paper was well going towards that outcome, in a sense that the notice that we've had is something that we've kind of been working under the sort of the not threat of, but the possibility of for some time. So every step that we take when we get a business plan or a business case through absolutely looks at how it improves management, how it improves the use of resources, and how it improves our fiscal position, as well as outcomes for children, of course. But we have, it doesn't feel at odds with what we're doing, or with what we'd have to do for this new thing.
Thank you, Heather. Any other questions for the Leader of Council, please? Nope. Great. Okay, moving on. Agenda item 12. Questions from councillors to the executive. And the first one is received from Habib. Over to you, Habib.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is Somerset Council's response to the protest march that took place in Taunton on Saturday, 27th of June? And what assurances can be provided that all Somerset residents will continue to feel safe and supported, particularly in light of reports that a further demonstration is being planned later this month? Somerset has a long and proud history of welcoming people from many different backgrounds who have made significant contribution to our wonderful county. Many came at the intervention of successive governments to help build our NHS and social care services, strengthen our engineering and manufacturing sectors, support agriculture, and sustain our hospitality industry and high streets. They are our neighbours, colleagues, friends, and fellow residents. At a time when many communities are facing economic and social challenges, does the Council agree that our collective responsibility is to bring people together, promote mutual respect and understanding, and reject attempts to create division or hostility towards any section of our community? Will the Council reaffirm its commitment to our community cohesion by working with partners, including the police, community organisation and local leaders, to ensure that everyone in Somerset can live, work and participate in public life free from intimidation, harassment or fear while respecting the lawful rights to peaceful protest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Habib. And I think Bill's going to reply to that question.
So thank you, Habib, for the question. The scenes we witnessed in Taunton on the 27th of June were deeply concerning. While most of those present conducted themselves peacefully and lawfully, I was appalled by the behaviour of a small group whose actions and language sought to divide our communities, intimidate others, and undermine the values that Somerset stands for. Somerset is a county built on decency, on respect and neighbourliness. People from many backgrounds, many faiths and many cultures have and continue to help shape our communities and have made an enormous contribution to our public services, to our businesses, to our economy and civic and community life. They are part of Somerset and they belong here. This council believes in dignity, equality and respect for every individual. We also believe strongly in the right to free speech and peaceful protest. These freedoms are fundamental to a democratic society. However, free speech carries responsibilities, and there can never be any place for intimidation, harassment, hatred, or attempts to set one community against another. Fair, honest and respectful debate must always prevail over division and hostility. At a time when many families and communities are facing real pressures, our responsibility as civic and political leaders is to bring people together, foster understanding and strengthen the ties that bind our communities, as we see demonstrated through the Together events that happen throughout Somerset every year. Somerset Council remains committed to working closely with Avon and Somerset Police, community organisations, faith groups and local leaders to support community cohesion and ensure that all residents feel safe, valued and welcome throughout the Community Voices Partnership. Everyone should be able to live, work and participate in public life free from intimidation, discrimination or fear. In light of the concerns that have been raised and reports of further demonstrations being planned, I will be calling on the leaders of all political groups represented here on Somerset Council to join with me in writing to Avon and Somerset Police and to the Secretary of State. Together we will seek assurances that sufficient resources are available to maintain public safety, protect communities and support effective policing when required. We will also work through the Community Voices Partnership to reassure and understand the concerns of our diverse communities. This isn't a party political issue. Keeping our communities safe, standing against intimidation and supporting community cohesion are the responsibilities shared by all of us. My message to every Somerset resident is simple. You are valued, you are welcome and you belong. Somerset is at its best when we stand together. We will continue to champion a county where people can express their views peacefully, where differences are debated respectfully, and where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. Community cohesion is not affected if it is just about good words and intentions. It has to be about the work for it to be meaningful. This is why this council funds and works closely with the Somerset Diverse Communities Project to understand the county's ethnically diverse communities and deliver support and community work. This could be through the Together events that happen throughout Somerset every year, run by community groups and supported by Somerset Diverse Communities, or by the newly formed Interfaith and Belief Network, providing communities opportunities to understand different faiths and different beliefs. It could be the joint work we will be offering to schools around how to support children that have been on the receiving end of racial discrimination in schools. And lastly, it could be the support and training and challenge we put in place for our staff so we understand and respond more effectively. As a council that has signed up to be an anti-racist organisation, we are committed to take action with our partners and on our own where needed. Let me finish with this. Regardless of political colour, we all have a responsibility to call out intimidation, hatred and attempts to divide our communities whenever and wherever they occur. We can disagree robustly on policy, challenge one another in debate, and uphold the right to peaceful protest, but it should be united in rejecting those behaviours that seek to spread fear, hostility, or division.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much indeed. Our next question comes from Dawn. Over to you, please, Dawn.
Thank you very much. This is a long question, so I'm not going to read the whole thing because we got a football game later, so we need to prepare. Well, there was cricket, and we can bring the rugby up, but I won't do that because that could be painful. Residents on the Longmead estate in Norton St Philip have been waiting approximately 13 years for roads, pavements, and lighting to be completed and the road to be adopted. And during this time, they've had to live with uneven roads, surfaces, unfinished pavements, raised ironworks and street lighting that has never been brought into operation for 13 years. The absence of lighting means that there are hazards that are dangerous in the dark. We've had children taken to A&E. We've had vulnerable residents who have slipped and fallen and choose not to go out. It is understood that progress has been hindered by delays in agreeing the necessary Section 38 and Section 278. This is a real problem because we've got a back and forth between the developer, of course, and the council. The residents have had many promises and very little progress, and they do deserve a clear plan as it's getting very frustrating. So the questions are listed there, but it would be really useful if we could also, of course, have a written response just so that I can report back to the community. But it'd be great if I could have something from you now as well. Thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you, Dawn. Richard, you're going to respond, aren't you? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good to hear you're supporting England. I was very happy to see St George's flag flying from County Hall earlier today in support of our football. So thank you for your question, Dawn, and I do appreciate the frustration with the ongoing situation, and you have my assurance that we are doing everything we can to bring this to conclusion. Unfortunately, we don't have the powers to force the developer to undertake their outstanding actions more quickly. Firstly, turning to the status of the Section 38 agreement, technical approval of the drawings is awaiting information on highway drainage and proposed soakaways, which has not been forthcoming from the developer despite our requests. Very frustrating situation. The Section 278 agreement can't be completed until we have all the information that we need for a technical approval of the proposals. There is ongoing discussion about potential issues with the surface levels and ponding of water on the proposed new surfacing. A site meeting to discuss this is programmed for the end of July. The draft legal agreement requires amendment due to landowner changes, again the frustration, as we know, and the council needs to recalculate the bond based on the latest drawings. It is frustrating. Question 2, the developer has unfortunately chosen to only have limited periods of engagement with our highways officers, and as a consequence has not provided full requested details in line with our design and consultation standards for adoption. And I'll just go on to question C. I know it's unusual, but in this case I think it's relevant. You will get a full written you asked, will Somerset Council commit to progressing Section 38 and Section 278 discussions in parallel, whether possible to avoid unnecessary delays? Yes, the Council has already been progressing matters in tandem. The 278 is required to allow the developer to carry out significant works to reconfigure the original cul-de-sac, which is existing public highway and needs to be in place before Section 38 is signed. However, Section 38 is discretionary on part of the council, and given that the developers failed to address the information on the provision of the soakaway for the last 20 months, no progress has been made. I will give you a full and detailed explanation, but it is a frustration for all of us in the council, and as you know, we've been trying to progress this as much as we can.
Thank you, Richard. So members, before I bring in the last question of the day, I'm reminding you that if you have any other questions for the executive, the next meeting is on the 5th of August and the deadline for questions is the 30th of July. So our last question today comes from Lucy. Over to you, Lucy.
Thank you very much. So my question is about the Yeovil Refresh Regeneration Project. I've been following this with interest for many years, having expressed concern about these ideas in the early SSDC meetings where it was agreed. We know about the terrible troubles the work caused, much upheaval, loss of much-loved businesses as a result of disruption due to the contractor being unable to complete the works at the end of it. Nobody I speak to sees it as an improvement. People are confused because they were under the impression that the former bandstand area, known as the Triangle, was going to be a shared area where sports events and other important live events would be screened. So my questions are, we have a Football World Cup and Wimbledon running at the moment. At the time of writing, both with English or British interest, I don't know about Wimbledon, I'm terrible, I don't want, yeah, I thought it might be. But whilst showing times of the World Cup have been sporadic, there have been some earlier matches for families to enjoy, and of course the Wimbledon tennis tournament, which has been running every afternoon. Have any events been shown on the screen in recent weeks, and how successful have they been? I ask because people have said they haven't seen any. The next question is indicative imagery for the initial plans made it look so much nicer than it has turned out to be. I know some planting needs time to mature, but there were mature trees that were taken down for this, and it broke my heart at the time. I raised it at the time, and I still do. I still think it's such a shame. I just feel, like I said in the question, a wide concreted area with no shade, few natural features. Can I point out no bin is full of rubbish as well, is not ideal for a feature that should be quite the attraction for this summer. And the backdrop to the screen, which was shown as wooden cladding and it was going to look really swish, is still just the breeze block end of an old closed down Poundland building. It just looks a mess. So is that going to be completed? And then the last question is really the quick fire round, I suppose. What was the final cost of the project? How much of it is still to be repaid? Is it still on a 50-year term, which was initially proposed by South Somerset District Councillor, on whose books is the debt held? Is it ours or Yeovil Town Council's? And what benefits has it brought to Yeovil Town Centre? And that's not to say there haven't been any, that's just how are we finding that it's benefited the community? Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy, for the question. I think Bill's going to answer it for you. Thank you.
Well, I will answer on behalf of Councillor Rigby, if I may. Thank you, Chair. So thank you for your questions. I'll deal with them each in turn in this response. 3A, no events have been showing over the last few weeks. With specific regards to the football, this hasn't been feasible due to extensive arrangements such as crowd control, safety concerns, security and licensing arrangements, which would be needed. We have this space available for bookings, and should an event organiser come forward, we would work with them on their proposals. The council doesn't want to directly compete with other commercial entities intending to show the games, and would not seek to organise and run any showings ourselves for this reason, especially bearing in mind the difficult economic situation which pubs and venues are dealing with at the moment. We are looking at how we can enhance use of the screen now, so we'll share any details as that progresses. 3B, regarding 72 and 74 Middle Street, the former Poundland. This is in private ownership. We were seeking to acquire the building, but as you will be aware, restrictions on purchasing came into place ahead of the vesting of this council. Since vesting day, the financial situation has changed, which has meant we were unable to progress this purchase any further. Recent attempts to contact the owner of the building have been unsuccessful. We would, of course, welcome the owners revamping the building. 3C, the total budget for the Yeovil refresh works is 18,630,000, which is within the council's reported capital budget. All works funded through this budget will be completed in the next few months. The project is funded through a mix of external grants, including Future High Streets Fund and Active Travel Funds. SIL also allocated and specific 106 agreements were utilised, with the remainder financed from capital borrowing. Councillor Rigby is happy to provide Councillor Triminal with a more detailed breakdown of this in writing.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, that ends the questions and that ends the meeting. So thank you very much indeed, members, for your contribution today. The meeting is ended and over. Hope football's coming home tonight.
Thank you, Chair.